So I have so much history, and I've had to learn so much about Auburn. That's what I would expect.
I'll sit over here.
Don't say thank you.
Duo.
You're gonna say, hey, give people a note to yourself.
Appreciate it, Virginia, thank you.
Yolanda,
Yes, ma'am.
everything's good?
Everything's roses. Thank you.
Didn't get to California, had to turn around and come back. My sister died. No. No, it was such a blessing.
There we go.
And it was.
We are in.
Right there. Day room, hospital, a caregiver, hospital, everything. Probably sedative, oxygen, yeah. It was very, very easy. But
I got some new snacks. I seen them. I checked.
Good evening.
Council, I've started the recording.
Recording in progress.
You can't see the clock.
It's 5:20.
Good evening, everyone. We will call the Auburn Study Session meeting tonight, Monday, August 12, 2024, to order. Tonight's study session meetings will be held both in person and virtually. Hannah, will you please call?
Deputy Mayor Brown,
Excuse?
Councilmember Amert,
Here.
Councilmember Baldwin.
Here.
Councilmember Rakes,
Here.
Councilmember Clinton Taylor,
Here.
Councilmember Tracy Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Troutman.
Here. Announcements, reports, and presentations. We have no announcements or presentations on tonight's agenda. We do have one report, the ready report out provided by Councilmember Baldwin.
Thank you, Chair. With Ready Coalition, we are anticipating having a final internal review of our work plan August 29th. And then from that meeting, that'll be our final, I believe, session with the consulting agency. And then from that point, it'll be putting together the communication plan and rollout plan to begin engaging directors, I think, potentially as early as October, and then taking that out to the wider council and staff audiences. So looking at making sure that's all communicated with our stakeholders and that we have a good plan for rollout.
Thank you. Now I will turn the meeting over to Councilmember Rakes, Chair of the Municipal Service Special Focus Area, to share this portion of the agenda.
Thank you, Chair. Chief Collier, you want to come up and give your fireworks after action report?
Good evening, council members. For the record, Mark Collier, Chief of Police. I'm here with Commander Brandon Skeen, who will actually be providing the report. Brandon was in charge of our fireworks emphasis this year. And so as we go through, we're going to go through the highlights of the report, and then however you would like to do questions.
Okay.
All the way at the end, or
Whatever your preference is.
okay.
So just let me know.
We'll take questions if you have them during the process.
Good evening, council members. So as Chief Collier introduced me, my name is Commander Skeen. I was tasked this year with conducting the overall emphasis in fireworks plan for the city of Auburn. And our main objectives this year were the same as last year, being that we wanted to continue to improve our communication and collaboration with members of the Muckleshoot tribe. We did this as we had members of the Auburn Police Department attend the Muckleshoot Law and Order meetings on a regular basis to remain in constant contact with them. Myself was also in contact with Fireworks Commissioner Haley Mathias of the Muckleshoot tribe. to communicate about timelines for the fireworks stands deployment, as far as when they're being sold, and then ultimately when the discharge area was going to be open. Our second objective this year was to continue our officer presence in neighborhoods and respond to 911 calls for service specific to fireworks. This year, our emphasis ran from June 7th until the 4th of July. Specifically on the 4th of July, we had 6 officers stationed at the fireworks stands and discharge area with a supervisor, a sergeant. And then we also had 6 officers in the north end of the city with a supervisor assigned to them. And then we had 6 officers in the south end of the city as well with a supervisor assigned to them. In the emphasis units, specifically in the north and south ends of the city, responded to 911 calls for service, as well as responding to Auburn City Parks for nuisance type complaints, and then our public schools as well. The results of our activity this year, we had, as far as the emphasis goes, leading up to the 4th of July, from June 7th to July 3rd, we had 189 hours of emphasis activity recorded. And we only had 3 shifts go unfilled for emphasis activity, totaling 18 hours. Overall, on the 4th of July, Auburn PD received no reports of significant injuries due to fireworks activity. No officers were injured. Our peak hours of fireworks activity were from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. And on the 4th of July, we received a total of 89 fireworks calls for the city. This actually was the second lowest as far as Valley cities go, with Tukwila being the lowest at 33 calls for service. On the 4th of July, all the emphasis units secured at 1:45 in the morning, and this is due to the discharge area and parking lot of the Mokoshi Casino taking longer than anticipated to kind of disperse the crowd. So it took us approximately 2 hours from beginning to end to clear that discharge area out. In total, on our fireworks season, our officers, or our city rather, had 205 total fireworks calls, and that was from June 1st to July 5th. And to highlight that it is the lowest call volume that our city has had in terms of fireworks calls over the last 5 years. As far as lessons learned for our deployments, it came to my attention fairly early on in our emphasis period that King 5 ran a news story specific to fireworks in Auburn, listing Auburn as a city that fireworks are able to be discharged from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Although that is accurate for the 4th of July per our city ordinances, it didn't specify what type of fireworks, being legal versus illegal. And so our social media teams, both being the City of Auburn and then Auburn Police Department social media groups, put out information specific to legal versus illegal fireworks, and just kind of emphasizing that if you're going to show up to Auburn, legal fireworks are tolerated during those time periods. Another lesson learned, as it is kind of with every year, traffic on Auburn Way South in the early afternoon hours became unmanageable. Despite our efforts to coordinate with Public Works and trying to maximize the amount of time the green lights would cycle on Auburn Way South, it's just due to the sheer volume of traffic. Another issue we became aware of on the 4th of July is a business in the north end of our city knowingly allowed citizens to discharge fireworks in their parking lot. At one point, our officers estimated there to be over 100 officers in that area. 100 people.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I wish there were 100 officers. So, yeah, at one point there were over 100 citizens in the area discharging fireworks. Eventually, this activity started leading to small fires occurring in the parking lot, and our officers had to go into the parking lot to help kind of clear the area to make the scene safe for Valley Regional Fire Authority to help put the fires out. As far as in the future with this specific business, we would like to obviously conduct some outreach with the owner of the business and the managers of the business, kind of educate them on what our ordinances are, our zero tolerance approach in terms of fireworks within our city. And if it's something that we can't gain compliance on, potentially there may be grounds for city code enforcement to look at possible violations to levy on this business should they choose to not cooperate. And then another lesson that learned, or the last point for this is we're always continuing to look to deploy our resources in a more effective manner. And one of these areas we have identified where we can potentially take our 6 officers and a supervisor and reallocate them to potentially a different area of the city or to assist our north and south end emphasis units further. But we're kind of in the early stages of identifying that, what that would look like, and how we would redistribute these officers. In terms of what went well for our deployments on that day, or in the season in general, I think our efforts led to the lowest call volume during a fireworks season for the last 5 years, being a total of 205. In terms of Valley cities, we had the 2nd lowest call volume of all the Valley cities in the region for fireworks on the 4th of July specifically. We had Valley Regional Fire Authority attend our briefing at the Auburn Police Department for deployment on the 4th of July. And although the fire department did not co-locate with our officers at the discharge area, they were briefed on where our officers would move casualties to in the event of some sort of emergency or some sort of fireworks accident. So the firefighters weren't in constant need of a police escort into the discharge area. And then, as always, our cooperation with the tribe continued. Haley Mathias was very communicative. She was very helpful in terms of her timelines and very responsive to our supervisor who was in the stands on the 4th of July, and she was very helpful in helping our agency clear that area. And lastly, we've incorporated Spider Tech, which is a software that responds to 911 callers, just kind of advising them of the status of the call. And it seemed to be beneficial, specific to our deployment on the 4th of July this year. As citizens called 911 to report fireworks type incidents, they would get a automated text message from Spider Tech, basically saying that their call was received. We were experiencing higher call volumes, and an officer would respond accordingly when we had, officers available in the area. And it seemed to reduce the number of citizens calling back, reporting the same complaint over and over again.
A comment and a question. So that said business you're talking about, I happen to live by, and so every elderly person there called me 4th of July. So I'm glad that they didn't call you by your call volume. But was there any reported injuries that night?
On the 4th of July?
Injuries from?
Not that we were made aware of.
Okay. Thank you. Tracy Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. First off, a comment on the social media messaging, not only from the police department, from our admin team here at the city. Amazing. You guys had it covered. My algorithm had nothing but great things with the social media messaging, so thank you for that. My next question would be, more so, Haley sounds like a dream to work with at the tribe. Was there a debrief on the crowd disbursement after the 4th, and what are the plans for the future and to make that a little more successful instead of taking 2 hours to disperse?
Traditionally, to answer your first question, there was not a formal debrief conducted with Haley, between Haley and myself. I did debrief my officers who were on scene. I was myself on scene, co-located with the fire at the command post location. It hasn't traditionally taken 2 hours. I think there were certain circumstances that led to it taking longer than usual. Specifically, the staff of the Muckleshoot tribe was so efficient at clearing the discharge area that they cleared it much quicker than we anticipated. And this led to the discharge area basically turning into the parking lot. And the parking lot turned into a secondary discharge area, which kind of fell on our officers to slowly gather people up and kind of push them out of the area. So I have some ideas off the top of my head. You know, I don't know what that looks like. I would have to sit and kind of look at it a little bit more.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that we do look at as well is what drives the shutting down of the discharge area a lot is when the actual stands are sold out of their product. And so if they're still selling, usually they don't wish the discharge area to be shut down because they have to have a place to go light everything off. So that is a driving factor. That varies from year to year. There's been some years where they've sold out very early, and then they want the discharge area shut down too early, which pushes some of that problem into the rest of the city. And so it's a constant kind of seeing where we're at with sales versus time of day.
Sure.
that sort of thing. So.
Councilmember Ammer.
I have two things. First, I want to say comment. I'm with King County Indoor Air Quality Study, so they sent me what we call it instrument will measure the quality inside the house. I installed it July 3rd. I live northeast Auburn. I kept the window open. It took 24 hours. It was red, was unhealthy, and it wasn't even where we live any fireworks. My question, I have to say statement first. So this is something people need to be aware. The air quality is bad to the fireworks. I see if you go to the slide in the top, I want to know the district. I know, yes, you did not put map and I forget which district I am.
Yeah. So our District 1 is the northwest portion of our city. It incorporates West Hill, the West Hill of Auburn.
Okay.
The 2 district is basically the heart of the city. It's runs in the valley from 277th all the way down to Highway 18. So that incorporates Auburn Way North, I Street Northeast, areas like that. Our 3 district is what we refer to as just the Lee Hill district. It's mostly that East Hill, Lee Hill area. Our 4 district is kind of spread out. It incorporates the outlet collection. But then it also kind of jumps across the railroad tracks there, and it runs basically from Highway 18 all the way to 29th Street Southeast. And I believe the cutoff for that, as far as east-west goes, is like R Street Southeast. The 5 is south of 29th Street Southeast and Lakeland Hills. And then the 6th district is basically all of east of R Street Southeast and Muckleshoot Hill.
Councilmember. Why am I drawing? Baldwin.
Thanks,
I
Chair.
shouldn't write and talk at the same time.
So one question I had was in the data that you're sharing, it looks like it was what we collected through July 5th. This year I think was a little interesting because that sort of took us into the weekend. I was curious if we had any issues, Saturday, Sunday, after the 4th of July in our neighborhoods.
I would have to get back to you with that data.
Councilmember Troutman.
I have to say, I've lived up there on Muckleshoot Hill for 20 years. This was the first time I've seen them putting everything in on time and taking everything out very quickly. And I also have to say the fireworks weren't as long as it was before. It was noisy just for a period of time, but I noticed that everything calmed down by 12 o'clock. And kudos to you guys. I saw you up there handling traffic and doing everything up there, so thank you for what you're doing with the tribe up there.
Councilmember Baldwin.
And this last question is probably courtesy of growing up with my older brother. On the off chance that parents should find maybe teenager stashes of, hoarded fireworks or unspent fireworks in this time after 4th of July, and they want to dispose of it safely, what's the best place for them to take any viable fireworks, I guess,
Yeah, it's usually VRFA.
VRFA.
Yeah, we turn our, when we seize fireworks, we store them in a container, and then we eventually turn them over to VRFA, and they do a combined safe burn with other cities in the valley.
Okay, perfect. That was the one thing where I was like, oh, there's probably a couple families who could benefit from knowing this, so thank you.
Any other questions, council? Thank you guys very much for your presentation, a lot of good knowledge, a lot of good knowledge to pass around when people ask questions, so thank you. Thank you, thank you. I'm gonna pass this back over to Councilmember Troutman.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda, council discussion, is ordinance number 6946, an ordinance granting to News Singular Wireless PSS LL, a Delaware limited liability company, a franchise for small wireless facility, to Ms. Gall.
Yes, so I'm going to have Amber Olds, who is our right-of-way specialist, come up and give you a quick briefing of what this franchise is.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As Ingrid said, I'm Amber Olds, right-of-way specialist with the Public Works Department. I'm here tonight to discuss draft ordinance 6946 for franchise agreement number FRN 24-0002 for New Singular Wireless PCS LLC's small wireless facilities under Title 20 of the Auburn City Code and consistent with federal and state law. Telecommunications companies that want to locate their facilities in the city's public ways are required to obtain a franchise agreement with the city. The applicant's facilities provide personal wireless and data communication services utilizing microcells, minor facilities, and small cell facilities. These are defined by state code and incorporated into Auburn City Code. New Singular has existing small wireless facilities located in the public ways which were authorized by franchise agreement number FRN 19-0014 under ordinance number 6727, which is set to expire on October 22nd, 2024. They've applied for a new agreement so that they can continue to operate their existing small wireless facilities and locate future facilities throughout Auburn and continue to provide services to their customers. Their application was reviewed and found to be complete per the city's code requirements, and the proposed agreement is consistent with the city's standard form agreement and other agreements of this type. The new agreement would be valid for a term of 15 years. New facilities and alterations, repairs, upgrades, and improvements to their existing facilities would require the applicant to obtain a construction permit, which are managed through the city's permitting processes and a requirement of the franchise. In bringing this agreement forward, city staff have verified that it meets city code requirements that council must base your determination on. The public hearing to consider the application and hear public comment is scheduled for the August 19th, 2024 City Council meeting. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council, do we have any questions? No? Okay, thank you. Next is on the agenda for council discussion is economic development, second quarter 2024 update provided by the acting director.
Thank you, and I'm going to hand it right over to our economic development team, Jen Francis and Emerson Folker, for tonight's activity.
Good evening. As I was introduced, I'm Jen Francis. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the City of Auburn. And this is Emerson Folker. He's Economic Development Coordinator. So tonight we'll be going through the quarter 2 economic development happenings, what's been going on here. This is just a reminder of what our organization and what our necessary requirements are and who we report to and kind of how we work together with our partners. So these are the things that we're working on. recruitment, and I'll kind of read through some of these things that we're working with. So Placer AI research, which is the one that we're kind of tallying who's coming in and out of the city and where they're coming from, where they're going to. Lots of emails and phone calls, working with leasing agents and face-to-face meetings. And Emerson will go through that in part of his presentation. As far as retention, lots of meet and greet meetings, unique meetings. We had a Puget Sound Energy Appliance Assistance Program that we were able to work with PSE on to assist some of our small businesses to obtain appliances at a very deep discount. And then follow-up meetings with folks that are, we have a few businesses that were looking to relocate due to growth. And we were able to kind of partner them up with some new locations. Our partnerships that we worked with in this last quarter was the Auburn Area Chamber, the Downtown Auburn Cooperative, Green River College Small Business Center, Kent Economic Development Group, and the Outlet Collection, as well as the Pacific Raceways. The events that we were preparing for and that we went to assist is the Business Connect events that are held in partnership with this city's Economic Development Division. We were at ribbon cuttings, the DAC Mix and Mingles, Makers Markets, the NHRA races, National Night Out. We volunteered at Kids Day and at Airport Days. The other things that we're working on is our contract management. So we have several contracts in the Economic Development Division. We have ones with Green River College. We have a grant with the Port of Seattle. We just signed a contract with the Golden Shovel Agency, and I'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. We also have a contract with Auburn Area Chamber, the Downtown Auburn Cooperative, the Outlet Collection, and Pacific Raceways. And managing those contracts takes a lot of time that we kind of have to go through and make sure that we're meeting the requirements and they're meeting the requirements. The boards and committee meetings that we attended were the BIA committee meetings, DAC board meetings, and the Economic Vitality Committee that's based out of the DAC board, tourism board meetings, chamber city meetings, lodging tax advisory committee, and the city and schools board meetings. And then we also have, of course, our training, onboarding new employees, leadership and economic development growth classes. So we're kind of looking back at what economic development has done in the last quarter and giving you an idea of where we're spending our time. So you'll see in this graph, I went through all the things that we're doing, and this is the amount of time that we're spending doing those things. So you'll see about 25% of our time is creating those recruitment opportunities, and that's creating those emails, researching what companies are local or regionally local chains that we can reach out to and hope to recruit for our city. Retention of committees, we spent a lot of time on the phone and then going out to properties, talking to leasing agents, and then working with folks on one-on-one, hoping that we can find a new location for them if they're looking to grow. Our partnerships, we're spending in the last quarter, about 20% of our time with our partnerships, whether we're supporting them at events that they're hosting, or if we're attending ribbon cuttings so that we're together on them, and then working with the Green River Small Business Center because we attend most of the online classes that they're hosting. We go and kind of give a plug for why you should choose Auburn as you get ready to open your new business. And then about this quarter, we spend about 15% of our time at events and then 5% of our time doing contract management. So I did mention that we had an RFP out for a marketing strategy, and that's kind of a rebranding of economic development for the city of Auburn. And the need for that is to kind of put our toe in the water and see if there's other businesses that we haven't worked with in the past that may want to see what Auburn looks like today. There's a lot of us that have been in Auburn for a long time, and there's people that still just kind of think of us as South King County. So we need to rebrand what that means. And we need to rebrand what it means to have a business in Auburn, what that looks like. So we are working with a company that was selected, and they're called the Golden Shovel Agency. They are a national company, and we've seen some of the work that they've done with one of our partners, the Kent Valley Economic Development Team. And so we're part of that Kent Valley Economic Development Team, and they've created a beautiful updated website. And it's got links into it so that you can click on a property and see what's available within that property. It'll show you what properties are available. we will also have that option on our website. So there's going to be two surveys going out shortly. One's going to be called Why Auburn Survey, and that'll be talking about like, why do you think businesses should come to Auburn? And then there's one that's going to focus on our marketing strategy. Like, how do we entice people to come to Auburn? And it's kind of more of a 30,000 foot mark looking down. And the Why Auburn's going to be kind of more intimate. So this is just a quick snap of what the Kent Valley Economic Development website looks like. You'll see at the bottom, these are our partners that we work with in that Kent Valley Economic Development group. It's Kent, Renton, Auburn, Tupelo, and the Port of Seattle. We work really closely together. We try to meet at least once a quarter where we can sit down and talk about what each one of us is doing. Even though we're neighbors, we're doing very different things. And it's not one is better than the other. It's just that we have cities that kind of focus on different things. And we're all doing a great job, but it's good to know what our neighbors are doing. One of the other big projects that we're working on is the comprehensive plan and the economic development chapter of that. We spent a lot of time preparing that and putting together items that I'm going to be back up here and reporting on. But one of the things that I want you to take away from this is that economic development chapter has 11 goals and 54 policies that we're proposing to you. I presented at the Planning Commission, and we did receive their support on the goals and on the policy that we've developed.
And business engagement. So this chart goes over our meet and greets, unique meetings, in-person recruitment outreach, and general follow-up meetings. All in all, in the first 75 days, this chart shows 37 meetings. However, my estimation puts us close to about 60 business engagement meetings. And I wanted to go over each category to kind of give you an idea of what each one goes into. First, the meet and greets. These are typically, the first introductions. We learn about the business as well as tell them a bit about ourselves and our roles within the city and how we can best assist them. It's also that first opportunity to learn about their business operations, what's working well for them in the city and what isn't, how we can find opportunities for them, and if at all, assist them with any concerns that they may have. This is also an opportunity for us to talk about the Business Connect events, the Mix and Mingle events, put on by the Chamber and the DAC, as well as tell them about our C-Click Fix program, as well as any other programs that the city offers that may benefit them specifically. Unique meetings are appointed outreach outside of the BIA area. Recruitment outreach, these are typically sit-down meetings with specific business owners that we feel would best benefit Auburn's citizens and our city. Most are entertainment businesses, restaurant, brewery, pub establishments, and retail options. And then lastly, follow-up meetings, pretty self-explanatory. We just follow through with any questions, comments, or concerns that came up with any previous meetings. And the meet and greet downtown. So these are a couple of the flyers that we've made up. These change each month according to the event. They're passed out to every business that we visit. We do our best to promote both the DAC and the Chamber events as they're planned and put on calendars. We made this flyer on the left to advertise the DAC events. The Chamber has their own that is also distributed. And then on the right, you'll see our C-Click Fix flyer. It's simple, effective, and easy to understand. So for our recruitment efforts, within my first 75 days here, we have researched and contacted about 32 different businesses in hopes to establish a relationship to promote Auburn as their new home. Our research includes, but isn't limited to, deep dives into their business website, their mission statements, their brand and product, their story, and if available, their future goals. We take that information and complete a form we created called a Business Connect outline. It's kind of like a who, what, when, where, why, and how, as well as a SWOT analysis on each of those businesses that we've targeted. We identify business owners, stakeholders, potential competition, business markets, goals and strategies, and from there we develop an action plan on how to best create a meaningful and effective relationship with each business. This form also includes a meet and greet checklist for when we do set up those in-person meetings to ensure efficiency and that we're optimizing these meetings. We also include a general benchmark for each business to make sure nothing slips through the cracks. and the downtown networking mix and mingles. So I mean, we look forward to attending these mix and mingle events put on by the DAC and the ribbon cuttings put on by the DAC. We use this time to connect with business owners and are able to have those conversations with multiple business owners at one time. It's a great way for us to not only introduce ourselves, but reintroduce ourselves to the business owners in the downtown, but also a great opportunity to check in again and make sure, business owners know that we're rooted in the downtown community. It's also an opportunity for them to provide any feedback, questions, comments, concerns to us, and then any way we're able to assist them for both, us and the businesses. And the June Makers Markets. It was a pleasure to partner with the DAC for the June Makers Market. At this event, we arranged for the Super Jump to provide the inflatable axe throwing there, which was a hit. We coordinated Momo's food truck and set up games and participated in the fun. That's me in the middle eating way too much food.
Okay, and then we have our partnership with the Auburn Area Chamber of Commerce. And this year, or this quarter, we had all of these. So we had our Spotlight Awards and Business Connect events and ribbon cutting. So this was our Business Connect event that was held in Imperial Palace. We had a decent turnout. We expected actually very little people to come because of July 3rd and the 4th being the holiday. So we kind of didn't know what to expect. But Imperial Palace, as always, put out a great spread for us. Then we had the Auburn Area Connect Spotlight Awards, in which Jeff Tate received an award, and Mayor Nancy Backus gave the award to him. He was nominated by the chamber to receive this award. It was called the Impact Award. And we used that opportunity to kind of get folks ready for National Night Out. So this was part of what we put in the swag bags, is our little reminder that we're going to be having s'mores at our National Night Out event. Then we have our preparation for the NHRA. So we're not going to talk too much about the actual event because that falls in quarter 3, but this is just a little behind the scenes so that you know. So if you look at the long sign that's on the top, you'll see where it says, please play, eat, stay, exploreauburn.com. That was last year's sign. We got feedback from people. So we talked to folks that are the Fox Sports channel. We looked at things. We talked to Pacific Raceways, and that's not legible on TV. So as much as we love the script on it, it's not legible. So this year, they offered to make the change for us. So you'll see nice, bold, big letters in readable print. So the play, eat, stay, big, bold, exploreauburn.com out there as well. The other thing that we prepared for was FanFest, and so we were able to actually host that again. We did a lot of work with Dave & Buster's, getting them prepared for it. We got feedback on what the FanFest looked like last year and what it looked like this year, and a lot of it was like, people didn't want to leave the parking lot to go in to get food and be away, and the drivers were really hot, so we made some of those changes. So if you were at the event, you'll see the drivers were inside, so they could stay as long as they needed to. They weren't worried about the heat and overheating out there. We also had it so that you could go up to a station, order a burger at Dave & Buster's, and take it to go. So they could grab their burger, go back outside. There are rules that say they cannot serve food outside in the parking lot. That's why they couldn't offer that. But we did kind of try to learn from what we had done the year before and put that into place. So we had lots of meetings with Dave & Buster's. We met with Pacific Raceways, and hopefully every year we kind of tune that up so we're getting the right information and able to kind of help people enjoy that. The other thing that we were preparing for was National Night Out. Again, we're not going to talk too much about National Night Out, but this is us just preparing for National Night Out. I want to give all kudos to Emerson on some of these design stuff. So this giant poster that we had was an 11 by 17, just letting you know kind of who our sponsors were, and then that we were able to have Dick's Food Truck come to that event. This is a sticker that we put on all of our Save the Date s'mores kits. He did a fantastic job putting this together. We were able to give out 1,000 postcards to let people know about the event, and those went to every apartment building in the downtown core. That we were able to pass out and have the posters hung out at many of the downtown businesses. And then we kind of, when we get to the NHRA, we were able to go up there and talk about our National Night Out event. So this was a huge success, is putting that out there, having really specific people that we're trying to recruit to come to our event, and then making sure that we're advertising in a way that's respectful to each one of those businesses, but also let people know what was going to happen at National Night Out. We also prepared the site plan, which seemed to be like a moving target as people kind of jockeyed for positions of where they were going to be. But this was something that we had to work out within that second quarter. So in our next update, when we come back to you on October 14th, we'll talk about the highlights of the NHRA race weekend. We'll talk about Media Day and what that meant, our Fan Fest, what the qualifying looked like, the privilege that we had to do the track walk, and then the Friday night racing under the lights, not in the dark. And then the finals and what that was. And so we're really excited to share some of that information with you. Once we get some of those metrics we're looking for from Fox Sports, we'll be looking from Pacific Raceways, and then some feedback from Dave and Buster's, and we're gonna come back and share that with you. So we just wanna remind everybody what the purpose of economic development is, and that's that our economic development program should be viewed as a way to shape the character of the city's future economy. And with that, we're happy to answer your questions.
Council, do you have any questions? Councilwoman Baldwin.
Thank you. My big one is you brought up the Placer AI research again, and I have been, very keen to find out what are we learning? What are we, what's coming in with that information? So, how far out do you think we are from having a debrief on that data?
We can bring that to Q3. We'll bring you some of that information. I do want to share a specific story without giving the name of a business, but we were able to get information to a local chain who was interested in potentially locating in Auburn. They wanted to know where were their current restaurants that they have, because we can get this across the nation, but we focused on Washington State. We were able to get metrics that said, these are folks coming from Auburn going to your restaurant in other cities. If you had this location, they could come right to our Main Street. We were able to give them that demographic. We were able to tell a retail store that they have folks that are driving all the way up to Federal Way to get to their retail store to be able to shop at their name brand. And we shared that. They actually shared back that that was extremely helpful. They hadn't thought about it. They're looking at doing potentially a new type of store. So they would call it like a Plan B store. Maybe not as big as one of the stores they have. We're not ready to share who that is yet, but we're really excited about the way we're able to use this information. And it's just guiding, it helps us. Are we going after the right target audience? If we're seeing these Auburn residents go to another city to get these items to shop for or to go to for that restaurant, it's able for us to then go back and share that information with a local chain that this is happening. And we feel like it's been really successful tool so far.
Awesome. Any other questions?
No.
My question is not important, but what type of marshmallow you have? I couldn't eat it.
That's funny. Great question. It is something that's hosted by our vendor who we use is Crave Board and Box. They're a local company, so they put those kits together for us. I can't even guess what it is. I mean, I have what I would probably put in there, but I'm not going to drop names. But they put those boxes together. They also put together our Save the Date. So Crave has been a partner of ours for the last 3 years.
Councilmember Taylor.
Thank you. Question on the creative district. I might be getting a little off here. We talked about it briefly with Jeff Tate. Where are we at moving forward with the creative district right now?
It's a really good question. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer about the status of the creative district, so I unfortunately will have to nod to Director Crum.
So we're going to be presenting and sharing some of the elements of our comprehensive plan that we hope to be adopted at the end of this year. And there are some policies that speak speak specifically to some elements to kind of revitalize downtown and that'll work well with kind of some of our future development plans.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Baldwin.
The Golden Shovel surveys, can you tell me a little bit more about who the audiences are gonna be for those and what the timeline is for those different surveys?
Thank you. That's a question that we just are getting approval to send those surveys out. We'll probably do it by the end of the week. We're still crafting that list. We have an idea of who it is. So why Auburn will go out to a broad audience. We're going to be looking for input from some of our partners. So the Green River College, the DAC, the Chamber. We're going to ask the school district a little bit because we have a partner, workforce development partnership with them. And then we're going to go down to some of our business outreach that we have. And so there's the Auburn Business Builder group that has that. So we'll ask some of them. And then the one that is the other survey that's about the branding will go to some leadership. So it's not going to be that broad. It'll go to some leadership folks, whether they're leadership at the city council table or management team leadership, directors, that type of thing. And so it'll be a smaller group. But we should be getting those out here by the end of the week.
Any follow-up questions, council? One last time? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So you gave both reports at one time.
I feel like I'm
Thank you.
coming back.
The next item on the agenda for council discussion is ordinance number 6945 with Director Thomas.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, Mayor, and Council. I'm Jamie Thomas, the Finance Director, and I'm here to go over our fifth budget amendment of the 23-24 biennium. It is our second budget amendment of 2024, and we'll just have one more after this before the 2023-2024 biennium ends. So this budget amendment, we're accomplishing four main goals in this adjustment. We're truing up our beginning fund balance. So now that we have completely closed out our 2023, we have done all of our accrual entries, we have audited everything. We are ready to true up those beginning fund balances based on how our 2023 ended. There are a couple of straggling 2023 items that we need to carry forward. Our first budget amendment of the year is primarily carry forward items, and we generally don't have carry forward items beyond that first amendment of the year. But there were a couple of important things that we needed to sneak in here in this budget amendment. We have, of course, our new programs with offsetting revenues. So we get several grant awards throughout the year, and as we receive those granted awards, we true up the budget to reflect those awards. And then we have a couple of capital project adjustments that we have, and mostly those are all pushing out some of our capital projects that had been originally budgeted. On page 63 of your council packet is Exhibit A, and it's a really detailed list, like always, of all of the budget amendments that we're proposing. But instead of going line item by line item, fund by fund, I am going to go over the summary, and then I'll pull out some of the highlighted big ticket items to discuss with council. So first off, we will talk about the changes in the general fund, and in summary, we are adjusting the beginning fund balance by a little more than $23 million. This takes into account underspent expenditures that occurred in 2023, as well as collection of revenues above and beyond what we had originally anticipated. Now, I'd mentioned earlier the carry forward budget adjustment in the beginning of the year does take away some of that fund balance. So we're carrying forward a pretty significant beginning fund balance, but because a lot of that was unspent expenditure authority from 2023, we pushed that expenditure authority into 2024 already with our first, with our major carry forward request at the beginning of the year. We also have, like I mentioned, a couple of carry forward items still struggling and from 2023, for totaling $195,000 and then $126,000 in new program expenditures associated with funds. All of the adjustments in this entire budget amendment, both in the general fund and all other funds, are one-time in nature. They do not have ongoing impacts. So here's the detailed list of the general fund adjustments. You can see the beginning fund balance adjustment. I put the net impact in the right, the right furthest right column to show how the revenue and the expenditures net total impact on the general fund. So in the end, our total adjustments increase our fund balance by $23 million in 2024. The lion's share being the beginning fund balance true up. The two carry forward items was the city's contribution to SKIP. We waited until we're truing this up. This has to do with what our actual contributions in 2024 were, and so even though we had a placeholder in the budget, for the city contributions towards SKIP, this is actually truing up our actual amount that we'll be contributing to SKIP this year. Then we have the 2024 Transportation Comprehensive Plan and Safety Plans. We needed to carry forward what was unspent from 2023 and continue that work into 2024. And then just recognizing a couple of new expenditures associated with revenue. So as you may be aware, we were awarded, or Sound Transit had given us $50,000 as part of the negotiation with Mel's Lot, and we had received $50,000 for any of the attorney's fees that we had incurred as a result of those negotiations and ultimate arbitration. We spent more than $50,000 for our outside legal counsel to help represent us. So I would just did a budget amendment to reflect the revenue and then just increase the budget on the expenditure side just to match the revenue that we received. The amount that we spent above and beyond that will be absorbed with existing budget within the general fund. The other three items on the list are our new grants, or some of them are grants that we receive annually, but once we have our annual award, we do the budget amendment. Once we actually have the grant award, we do the budget amendment for those revenues and the relative expenditures. So moving into all of our other funds, I've summarized all other funds together. In total, we are adjusting the beginning fund balance by almost by $14.7 million. We have a couple of carry forward items totaling $1.1 million, new programs with revenues totaling almost $10.5 million, and then new capital project reductions totaling $2.3 million. So here's that list. I'm going to call out a couple of the largest ones that are the most significant towards the top with new revenue. One is $6.1 million in revenue that we received from our Sound Transit settlement. For now, we're just wanting to record the revenue of $6.1 million. We have $150,000 that we're asking in budget authority to help us with the planning and trying to figure out what we're going to do moving forward. So this was ultimately our award that came to us through arbitration. This was the judge's decision. This is how much Sound Transit will be giving us for their acquisition of the Mel's Lot that our employees are no longer able to park in. And so now that we received the $6.1 million, we need to figure out what we're going to do as far as future parking goes for both business need as well as for staffing needs. The other big piece on here, I think that a lot of you will be happy to see on here, is theater construction. So we are recording some revenue as well as some expenditures associated with the theater construction project. This is not all inclusive of all of the revenues and all of the expenditures. We still have some funding sources that we will be doing budget amendments for in the final budget amendment of the year as we reprioritize some projects. But what we are doing in this budget amendment is recognizing some movement of impact fee park impact fee revenue towards funding the project, as well as some ARPA money reallocation. So we had the Dykstra Footbridge project, and you can see that reduction further down on the list as a capital reduction item of $389,000. We're moving that Dykstra Footbridge project to use that towards the theater construction. And then we also have a developer contribution that we're recognizing as revenue, as well as almost $1.5 million in grants as well. So those are our two most significant changes in the.
Can we ask questions?
Yes.
In between these, Councilwoman Baldwin?
Thanks, Chair. I'm curious on the theater construction. I know that we had a capital project item for design on that I think was in our last status report. We had capital project 2406 for demolition, and then capital project 2321 for downtown infrastructure projects, and then design. And then I think the one I'm seeing referencing construction is 2414, but I'm not sure because we've not seen like the design outputs or anything like that. Where's the authority for that one?
So we have a couple of other projects right now that already have budget authority. One is the downtown infrastructure project, and that is funded. And then we also have the theater demo and design. So those pieces are already budgeted for.
Mm-hmm.
This is the amendment for the actual construction of the theater. So this is another phase, if you will, of the overall theater construction project. So the design is already in the budget with another funding source,
right,
aside from this. So are you looking for the design that we are asking this budget amendment for?
A little different. We've got the one for the demo, right, so it's got to be demolished.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the one for the design, which is already, both of those are already authorized.
Mm-hmm.
For the construction, I thought we were going to see that come back with the budget planning cycle that we're going to have coming up in September. So I think I'm trying to understand if this is ahead of that budget review process or if this is going to be considered separate from our budget planning for the next biennium.
You will certainly see this as part of our budget planning because we're going to be presenting the 6-year capital facilities plan as part of our biennial budget.
Mm-hmm.
However, as we're securing funding sources and we have a better idea of what the actual cost of the theater is, we're pulling that into the budget now. So it's in 2024. Okay. So we can continue the phases of the project to keep it rolling. Anything that we do not spend in 2023 or 2024, in 2024, we will be carrying forward into 2025. Right now, we're doing a lot of the budget planning in this year, and so that's not going to be, we're getting all that funding figured out this year, and we're not necessarily waiting until the 2025-2026 budget cycle, but we will definitely discuss it as part of that 6-year CFP when we discuss the budget in September. Did that answer your question?
I think mainly what I'm hearing is that we're basically pulling the funding aside for continued progress against that overall project, but that council will be giving authority with the capital facilities plan. Is that right?
This budget amendment will be giving the city the authority to move forward with any contracts that it needs to move forward with the construction of the theater. So that's giving us the authority now with the adoption of the budget amendment.
Do you have a?
No.
Yeah, I saw her hand, but I thought.
No.
No, I'm just. Is there anyone else here that has a question so she can have a follow-up? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. And not to be misconstrued, I'm very excited for a theater in downtown Auburn, but I'm curious about the process where it feels like we're sort of leapfrogging, bringing the design back for review by council, because the last time we saw an update on the downtown improvements and the discussion of the theater district and all of these things, I feel like there had been a moment where council was in that excitement saying, when are we gonna get to see kind of previews of what we would be going forward with? So I think, and if anyone can speak to this, great. I would be concerned about giving authority for that transfer for construction to begin if I've not had a chance to see what we're approving to be built.
Let's turn it over to Director Gao.
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe I can add a little bit more information. So the work that's being done right now, and that's budgeted, is basically just the conceptual laying out of the theater so that we could come up with what is that final design and construction cost for the theater so that we could create that budget. There will be additional processes under that project and under that budget where we'll come back and show you what that final concept and that idea and that design is as we go through that process. Right now, it was mainly just to come up with what is that overall budget so that we could figure out what is the number we're looking for to target in the budget. We will not be going to construction with that project in 2024. It will go to construction sometime in 2025.
I think what she's also asking is, were you going to bring us back, because you already brought us a view of what it may look like?
Yes.
Where are we going to?
That would be as part of the final design of the theater, which is part of what that budget is.
Okay.
For that theater part. What we've done right now is conceptual level planning in order to figure out what is the budget that we need in order to replace the theater and what is the size of that theater. What are all the requirements that go with that to come up with that budget amount.
And the other piece to that is not just identifying what the total amount that we need, but it's as we're identifying those revenue sources, earmarking them and committing them through a formal budget process to the theater project so they aren't accounted for in other places before we get started on the theater project. So it's just getting that committed specifically to the budget or to the theater.
If I can add one more piece to that. One of our grant sources, the 1.5 million from the state, requires that we show that we have full funding for the project before we can obligate those funds. So we need to take this step so that we can show that that project is fully funded so we can obligate those grant funds.
So the 1.5 million is already saved for that project?
It's already been awarded to the project through the state. We just need to obligate it with the state.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you for extra context on that. It's helpful because, we're going into budget season, and I think from the previous session, it felt like there was a little bit of leapfrog in that process. So it's helpful to know that it is going to have time for further work to happen. I think the concern, knowing that we're looking at a budget where I've heard that things are going to be having to pick and choose between what our priorities are for the city, is this is, obviously probably not the whole amount that it's going to be for that project, but it's a good chunk of change. And so if we're having to pick and choose where we put our priorities, I would potentially be concerned about having the commit without having yet a chance to see what are those other things that might now be off the table because we're making the decision to do this with this funding now.
So the things that are off the table right now that we're asking for the council's direction on is the Dykstra footbridge and the realigning that money. We had done a study back, I think, last year, and we realized that structurally it wasn't unsound as we had thought it had been. It was actually in pretty decent condition. So we had learned late last year that the need for replacing that bridge didn't exist as we had thought, which is why we hadn't moved forward with that project. So we kind of been using that as a kind of a what else other priority projects might come up, and the theater project was obviously one of those. And as far as other reprioritizations, if we have to move money from other projects, that will be a part of the year-end budget discussion that we will be having with potentially other ARPA projects and maybe other refunded projects as well.
Any continue?
Okay. Then I have a list of capital projects that we're reducing, and this is mostly just one, obviously the Dykstra footbridge. Others have to do with just the timing of being able to complete projects in the year and just freeing up some of that fund balance to be available for other projects, but most importantly, just realistically, these are not projects that we're going to be able to get completed in this year, and we're just deferring out to future years. We also have the Justice Center roof replacement project that we need to get done that had been originally budgeted, had not been able to get completed in 2023. So we're carrying that forward into 2024. And then the very final one, it's kind of a special, I called it a carry forward just to be able to put it into a category, and that is to reflect the increased cost for the equipment replacement fund. And just with inflation and with the number of equipment, the equipment that we need to replace, we need that budget authority to be able to pay for all the equipment this year, in addition to their actual increased costs. We have that money in fund balance available, we just need the spending authority. And that is the summary of our budget amendment number 5.
Director Thomas, you mentioned the footbridge. What footbridge are we talking about?
The Dykstra footbridge, and
That is down.
By my house on 22nd Street, across the bridge.
Oh, okay,
Across the river.
yeah. Okay, thank you for clearing that up. Yes, Director, Councilwoman Baldwin.
Thanks. Last question, for the net impact on the beginning fund balance true-up or for the 23 million, you said that that is amounts that are unspent. I'm assuming there's a unspent but committed aspect to that 23 million?
So it's a combination of unspent as well as revenue above and beyond what we had collected that we hadn't budgeted for. So that's the true-up. So it's on both sides, both the revenue and the expenditure side. So some of that is like a one-time not committed. That's most everything on the revenue side. And then, yes, we carried forward in that first budget amendment of the year, unspent budget, which led to a higher fund balance at the end of 2023, and we carried that forward into 2024. So now it's committed. We've got a higher commitment in 2024 than what we had originally started with.
Okay. If there's no further questions, thank you very much. Next on the agenda for council discussion is resolution number 5780. Director Klum.
Thank you, and I hand it right over to Alexandria Teague, Planning Services Manager, and some of the members of our department for tonight's presentation.
Okay, you can see me over this.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. You guys want to join me up here? Yes, we are ready to go. Okay. Good evening, council members. My name is Alexandria Teague. I am the Planning Services Manager in the Community Development Department. I am joined tonight with Jen Francis, Economic Development Manager, Dinah Reed, Senior Planner, and Alyssa Tatro, Planner 2. Tonight we'll have an overview of what we give in the term Comprehensive Plan Package 1. Resolution 5780 is scheduled for action on August 19th. The purpose of this resolution is to provide community development staff with acceptance of Planning Commission's recommendation on the elements and direction of the periodic comprehensive plan update. Some housekeeping. Our materials begin on page 85 of the packet. The presentation that I'm going to run through is actually on page 91. We got a little overzealous, and so there's a duplicate presentation on 220. Don't worry about that one. That's not the one I'm giving tonight. And then the land use element that we get in first starts on 136. And requests that questions are provided or asked after the end of each element. So
thank you.
All right. Getting into it. So this is a list of the comprehensive plan elements that are part of the periodic comprehensive plan update. Next to each element is the department responsible for developing the element. We do have a new element, this is the climate change, and Alyssa will discuss that element a little bit later on. And it's important to remember as part of this comprehensive update, and I'll read this blue box, it is a citywide effort involving all departments coordinating together to create a cohesive, consistent, and forward-thinking plan that covers a range of subjects. And there's a lot of topics in this document. The comprehensive plan is split into two packages. As I mentioned, the first package includes the land use element, housing, economic development, historic preservation element, and climate element. The reason for the split into two packages is that some of the elements in package number 2, including the utilities element and the system plans, they needed more time for agency review, like the health department, things of that nature. A planning commission has already reviewed each of the elements in package 2, as well as the hearing on, I believe, almost all of them, but didn't provide a formal recommendation in anticipation that the agency comments were still outstanding. However, on July 16th, Planning Commission provided a formal recommendation on package 1. It is important that staff receives acceptance of the direction of the elements so that we can work on and finalize the code update that will be necessary to implement the land use or the comprehensive plan update. Okay. This is a snapshot of all of the regulations, standards, and policy that our comprehensive plan must be consistent with. This includes Puget Sound Regional Council, or PSRC, Vision 2050. Previously, it was Vision 2040. The countywide planning policies, that's King and Pierce countywide planning policies, considering Auburn is within both counties. The Department of Commerce, as well as changing conditions statewide. I'm referring to House Bill 1110. You'll see House Bill 1110 all over throughout our land use element and our housing element to be consistent with that new requirement, as well as changing conditions in the community. I want to say that Puget Sound Regional Council, Commerce, and the countywide planning policies were really the source of the core changes in our comprehensive plan and will be of our regulations. Okay, so let me move into some core changes of the land use element. So by 2044, the city must accommodate 12,000 net new residential units and about 20,000 net new jobs. This is within King County. We also span into Pierce County. So in our Pierce County portion, we have to have 112 net new residential units and 0 net new jobs in Pierce County. This is due and recognizes the fact that the portion of the city that's within Pierce County, Lakeland area, is mostly built out as a master plan community, and so we don't have as many units that are required. But throughout this land use element and our comprehensive plan in general, accommodating growth is central to this update. Another of the core changes in the land use element is addressing and implementing House Bill 1110, the middle housing. Generally, we must allow for middle housing throughout the city. I'll discuss the 9 housing types in the housing element discussion, but middle housing moves away from the traditional number of lots per acre density standard that we were using, for example, R5, residential 5 dwelling units per acre. And this is reflected in the fact that middle housing allows for 4 dwelling units per lot. It's not 4 dwelling units per acre, it's 4 dwelling units per lot by right. Therefore, to accommodate middle housing, several code updates are going to be proposed. Updating our development regulations, because as they are now, such as the zoning development standards like lot coverage or impervious surface, it would inhibit middle housing, would make middle housing more difficult to develop, make it less feasible. We're actually looking at consolidating existing zones, such as the R5, residential 5 dwelling units per acre, and the R7, residential 7 dwelling units per acre. To be honest, there's not a whole lot difference between the two. The lot sizes are about the same, the lot widths are about the same. There's not a lot of difference. Same thing as the R10 and the R16 zone. R16 is not widely mapped. So we're looking at opportunities for consolidation of zones. There are some exceptions that are going to be allowed under the House bill. For example, we are not proposing to allow for middle housing in our mobile home park zone, just because of the conflict that would create when you have a mobile home park with units and then potentially removing or demolishing mobile home units to allow for middle housing. So there is an exclusion that you can really apply for with the state, and so that's what we're going to look to for the mobile home, residential mobile home zone. The proposed code changes that I'm alluding to will be reviewed by Planning Commission. We're gonna get underway actually later this month and throughout September and October. So going back briefly to the consolidation of zones, yes, there's a lot of information on this slide, and that table is not exactly straightforward. But what this slide is really showing is the consolidation of zones. There's going to be a change in nomenclature that reflects that we're moving away from lots per acre, because again, middle housing, 4 units per lot. See, the name of two zones and 2 zones in particular, the residential conservancy zone and the R1 zone, not a lot of changes to those zones. They do have to allow for middle housing, but really there's not a whole lot of changes to those two, and the names are not changing. The consolidation of zones, which you see in this table, will allow us to examine or re-examine the density. Again, we're not talking about lots per acre, but units per lot, and the intensity of uses. For example, as we're proposing in the lower density residential conservancy, RC, R1 zones, and R2 zones that we have 4 units per lot allowed, 6 if near transit, and that's the maximum. And then anything above 6 units would not be allowed. That's gonna be in our more intense zones. So again, I think the takeaway for this table and consolidation of zones, it allows us to re-examine what density and intensity looks like across the city and where it's proposed. The proposal also includes the expansion of our downtown zone and designation. It recognizes that our downtown is a regionally designated growth center. Puget Sound Regional Council regionally designated growth center, and we should be capturing density and intensity downtown. But it also recognizes that not all areas of the downtown are the same, nor should they have the same treatment. So we're proposing different districts, which will be fleshed out in the future downtown plan, but they're intended to recognize different treatments or standards throughout the downtown. For example, the downtown health and wellness district that we're proposing will be largely around multi-care. While other portions of the downtown are largely residential in nature, we're proposing a downtown neighborhood residential district that will help preserve the existing housing stock that we have in the downtown area. Lastly, I want to note with the downtown plan and the downtown design standards will be a follow-on action in 2025. So more to come on that. Other core changes in the land use element that outside of the downtown we're proposing growth centers. Functionally, these will be mini areas or sub-areas we're proposing more growth and development to occur. These areas will take advantage of transit and access. Some of the key growth centers are going to be the Ice Street. It's near Auburn Way North. It's this red area here. And then the Stuck River area or the Sagali mine pit area. So the growth centers concept is included in the comprehensive plan. There's the 2024 draft map of proposed growth centers that you have in front of you, but the code update to implement the growth centers will be a follow-on action in 2025. Getting into a little bit more of the growth centers, this is the idea or the template of how growth centers will be developed. Each center will be a little bit different, but the idea is to have a mixed use core surrounded by higher density or intensity residential uses with transit nearby. So either mixed use being horizontal or vertical, surrounded by more intense or higher intensity residential uses. Back to the downtown, I mentioned some of this information on the previous slides, but I think the important thing to note here is the planned growth for downtown. By 2044, it's intended that 12% of the total city employment will be downtown and 17% of housing units. The downtown boundary is proposed to be expanded beyond what it is now. Again, is to recognize also that it's a regional growth center and it's appropriate to receive a lot of housing, jobs, growth. So this slide captures the overall implications of the proposed changes. There's two main takeaways from the land use element. One is that we are accountable for the housing targets and the job targets, but really the housing targets noted on the previous slides. And two, our comprehensive plans compliance with Puget Sound Regional Council, with Commerce, with the countywide planning policies, maintains our eligibility for grant monies. And that's all I have on the housing element. Happy to answer any questions.
Council, do you have, anyone has a question?
So much. There's a lot. We will be,
Go ahead.
oh, we will be back in the fall. So there is a lot, yes.
If anyone has questions, could they email or?
Yes?
Yeah, if there are questions or.
Right now, there was so much to take in.
Sure.
And Councilwoman Baldwin said there was so much to take in, and I asked if there was any follow-up questions, could they email you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Email me, please.
Councilwoman Baldwin.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of what I see here is just reflecting what we knew was coming with the middle housing bills. And so I'm assuming the bulk of it is making sure that whatever our comp plan is setting up is going to be aligning to what the state's requiring of us, right? And
Absolutely.
so I think it's probably just spending a little bit more time with some of the maps that didn't quite make it all the way through.
But yes.
It's okay. And so, yeah, if there's any questions, I'll just reach out.
Please, yes. And then you could email our director and then CC me, and we will have those addressed. Thank you.
Just have them go directly to
Okay.
the director.
The director.
Never mind. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And then now I will move on to the housing element. And it's gonna sound very similar to the land use element. Not surprisingly, the major change is to comply with middle housing. So this slide is a repeat of the previous slide. It is, I'll say, a very big change from how traditionally development was completed. You know, the 5 dwelling units per acre, 7 dwelling units per acre. Now it's a minimum of 4 units per lot. It is a paradigm shift that all jurisdictions, not just Auburn, are having to go through because of state requirements. So our land use, our comprehensive plan is reflective of that, and our code update that's we're getting underway is also reflective of that. Another core change, though, of the housing element is a discussion of racially disparate impacts. Auburn is at higher risk for displacement of persons due to being cost burdened. Cost burden means paying more than 1/3 of your income in housing. Shown on this graphic here, persons of color and people of Hispanic or Latino of any race are more cost burdened. And as housing becomes more expensive, more people are likely to become more cost burdened. This is another more information depicting racially disparate impacts. The lack of home ownership and rental housing affordability are disparate impacts. As you can see on this graph here, persons of color, households of color, and households of Hispanic, Latino, of any race are more likely to be renters and less likely to be owners. I'll say though, as a city, Auburn is more affordable than King County generally. So up to 80% of the average median income compared to King County. Well, let me say it a different way. And because this always confuses me when I'm trying to say this. So this slide here, it's rental unit affordability for Auburn. 8% of Auburn is affordable to 80%, above 80% AMI. However, in King County, 39% of King County is affordable to above 80% AMI. So what this is saying is essentially Auburn is more affordable for rental units. But that's not something we didn't know. It's something I think we all knew. But the key takeaways is we need to ensure that new housing is not only is there more housing, there's more units, that it's affordable, existing housing is preserved, and rental housing is available. Also, there's opportunities for homeownership because that's essentially helps the creation of generational wealth. Okay, the next couple of slides, I want to show some of the 9 middle housing types, and I'll just run through these. The first one is a townhome. We have a duplex. Duplex is just 2 units. We have a fourplex. This fourplex looks more like the great house model style of home. It's quite nice because it fits in with the character of your traditionally single-family residential neighborhoods. This is a really great house. It's a 5-plex, and then we have the 6-plex. But again, as you can see, it keeps in with that character of your traditional look for single-family residences. And then we have a stacked flat. Stacked flat, this is essentially a triplex, but it's kind of cool because each of the units are on their own floor. And then courtyard apartments. So courtyard apartments are it's basically where the units, they are designed so that they're facing inward to each other, so they have a courtyard. This is not unlike what we require now in our multifamily and mixed-use design standards. And then the last one is cottage housing. Cottage housing is a little bit unique in that it's tiny homes, but not ADUs, but it's tiny homes, about 1,000 square feet on one lot. So that's more of your condominium style of ownership. And then accessory dwelling units. Accessory dwelling units are going to be one of the 9 types. There's a reason for that I'll get to later when I talk about the code update, but those were included as one of our 9 types of middle housing. And then another really key change are going to be unit lot subdivisions. So explain this. So unit lot subdivisions, it allows for middle housing on lots to be turned into individual parcels that can be individually owned. This says again, so you have 4 units on a lot, and now with a unit lot subdivision, you will be able to put each of those units on their own parcel through unit lot sub. This is part of the middle housing code. This is the type of code updates that staff, we have to work through to implement. But this is really going to be a benefit for people in Auburn because it will allow for fee simple ownership. Instead of having condominium ownership, it'll be fee simple. You will own the house and the land beneath you individually, not jointly in condo ownership. This will be implemented through our new subdivision regulations. We have a consultant, Makers, helping us propose and draft these new regulations. And then this slide captures the overall implications of the proposed changes. I think in addition to the key takeaways for the land use element, the key takeaways is we're going to need more housing options, preserve existing housing, and we're going to have to, it's going to require coordination with other city departments. And that's all I have for the housing element.
Okay. Any questions, really? Do you have more to give us correctly?
Yes.
Could we ask for a 5-minute break? Okay, I'm
Yes.
sorry I'm doing this in the middle of your speech. So we will take a 5-minute, get back at 7 after 5, 5 after 7. 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Well, my watch is ahead. Okay. Make sure we're back, in 7:02? Thank you.
Somebody said 2004. Said, what?
But I could get.
25?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Oh, I should just turn to you.
Here, I'll wing it.
Here, help yourself. Is that better?
Obvious at all that I can't see that far, how old I am.
It's probably not the right thing to do. I realized I was kind of speaking, I'm sure, because I didn't know.
No, thank you. I promise I'm fine. So many accommodations for me.
Okay. We're calling the meeting back to order. So, madam, you can take over again.
Thank you. Okay, we will move now on to the economic development element with Jen Francis.
Thanks, Alex. As Alex said, again, I'm Jen Francis, the Economic Development Manager for the city. And we'll jump right into this. Oh, that's not me, that's you. Thanks, Alex. Okay, so for the Economic Development chapter, we have 11 different goals and 54 policies that we've proposed. So I'm gonna hit some real high-level stuff, and then we can go through if you have questions, but remember, we're gonna come back and do a little bit of a deep dive once we get to fall. So the first one is retention of businesses, and that is goal number 1. We've got policies that we've got proposed in there to collaborate with local educational partners, that's the school district and of course Green River College. And the goal for this is to make sure that we have an understanding of what the employer needs are in the education / employment pipelines, including fostering partnerships with businesses to provide internships, apprenticeships, and job placement opportunities. So we need to know how to keep those businesses in the city, and a big portion of that is making sure that we have a workforce that's developed to able to support the businesses that we're keeping here. We don't want them to go to another city because they can't find people to work in their business. The next one we have is attracting new businesses. This is something that you'll see from the last report, we are digging into how do we start recruiting some new businesses specifically for the downtown area. And you've heard me come and talk to you about that quarter after quarter about how do we get some folks in there. So our goal for attracting new businesses is attract new, high-performing businesses by identifying market gaps, precisely defining the type of businesses that Auburn is seeking, and strategically marketing Auburn's advantages and optimizing available land and space. And some of the ways that we can do that is creating these market campaigns. So doing the contract that we have with Golden Shovel is creating that recruitment marketing plan in our branding. We're really looking forward to working with that partner to be able to have something that we can show to you and be like, this is what ECDev looks like today, and this is how we want to go forward, hopefully for the next 20 years that carries us all the way through the comp plan for that 20-year period. Next up is the missing and underrepresented industry. So we have to identify and support emerging high-performing business sectors and growth potential, contributing to resilient and dynamic economic landscapes, particularly in industries that are currently underrepresented. That's a mouthful. Okay, so that just means that we really need to establish programs that support entrepreneurs and startups and identify their kind of where their high potential sectors are, provide mentorship, access to resources, networking opportunities, and to nurture the growth of those emerging businesses in underrepresented industries. Okay, so we need to make sure that we have these small businesses that we're not just like sink or swim. We've got to show that we care about these businesses from the get-go. So there are some underrepresented businesses that we see even just restaurants right now, we don't have enough of these places that are after 5. And that's something that we actively are recruiting. So it's those after 5 businesses in our downtown core. So how do we get those? And it's going to be reaching out to those regional chains and some small business owners that maybe have a food truck right now that we're hoping to have a brick and mortar soon, focusing on what's small but that we can curate into something bigger. The next one is supporting industry clusters. Implement strategies that support local and regional industry clusters, which include approaches that support Auburn specific clusters as well as regional clusters that represent the Highway 167 corridor cluster and King and Pierce County identified clusters and regionally identified Puget Sound clusters. Okay, this is like the aerospace industry cluster, or the manufacturing cluster, or our shopping districts, or our downtown. It's just seeing that we have this cluster, don't ignore it, kind of help it grow, help develop its workforce within that. So if we have an aerospace industry and we want to keep an aerospace industry in Auburn, we need to make sure that we're partnering with educational opportunities that whether it's through Green River or it's through Boeing, and they've got a starter program for kids that are coming in through high school, and being able to grow that. It's called, I believe it's Core, Boeing Core program, and be able to have that partnership so that we're supporting the cluster that's there. Our partners for economic development, Kent Valley, does a fantastic job in doing that. We need to also do a fantastic job in having and supporting those industry clusters. Next, downtown Auburn. So downtown Auburn, our focus is to develop a livable, walkable, drivable destination for fostering an active community through arts, entertainment, and even activity. Enhance building designs, amenities, and safety measures to create a welcome environment that encourages residents and visitors to explore Auburn. And that is continuing the active partnership with the DAC and involving local businesses to collaborate with us. That's through part of our facade improvement program. You'll see that some of those things are being done on Main Street right now. They're doing the facade improvements, that they're investing in their business to be able to kind of showcase what they have there. We'd love to see those types of improvements. So we also need to be looking at enhancing the security measures in the downtown, including police presence, improving lighting and surveillance systems to ensure a secure environment for residents, visitors, and especially during those evening hour activities. So what does that look like? And some of that will be coming forward as they redevelop the B Street Plaza, as they make some of those changes along Main Street. You'll see some of those kind of part of that design. High standards. So promote a high quality architectural design, pedestrian circulation, landscaping, lighting, public amenities, security investments, and signage that are customized to the various commercials and mixed-use areas to the city. We're really intentional in economic development of who we're recruiting right now. It's not just who will say yes, it's who do we want to have in Auburn that we can put information to them to help them make that decision to get to a yes. We're not just making general phone calls to fill a space that's vacant right now. We are very intentional. We have meetings. We go through, like Emerson had talked about in our previous, like do some deep dive into who these people are as far as like what kind of business they have, how long do they stay open, what are their hours, so that we can continue to have like a nighttime growing area so that there's activity when we open a new theater. So that's what we mean by high standards. It's cultivating that environment. Next, displacement. I feel like there's one before that, but we'll go with displacement. Economic development not intended to wipe out housing and communities. So we have to plan for the middle housing. And so we want to soften the impacts of the industry on the communities. We know we have to plan for the middle housing, but we don't want to make sure that we're displacing anybody that's already there. We're providing new opportunities and not displacing other folks that are there. And then an increased supply of housing, creating stability and options for more folks. Alex? you got the very stripped down version of that. Do you have any questions?
Council, Councilwoman Fowler.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, one of the things that I did appreciate seeing in here, because I know we've talked about it in council a few different occasions, is on page 217 of the packet, ED 27 under downtown Auburn, which is developing not only a mix of incentives, but also potentially penalties to eliminate the ongoing vacancy of ground floor commercial spaces. So I think that's a really big one that we've certainly had conversations around for the time that I've been on council, if not others before me. And then one that I didn't see in here, I may have missed it between the different land use and ECDEV, is for our economic development and our spaces, where does it live to be able to have like more outdoor seating in our downtown core? So, you know, because I noticed there were some elements related to storage, but I don't know if seating would fall under storage. So I had some questions on that.
I appreciate the question, and I think you're going to see more of that answered as we do the downtown plan update. And so those are things that we're definitely going to be considering. It's not spelled out in the comprehensive plan, but it will be really a focus when we get to the actual downtown plan in 2025.
Any other questions, Council? Okay, if not,
Good evening, I'm Dinah Reed, Senior Planner with the Community Development Department, and I'll be presenting the update to the historic preservation element this evening. The draft element is on page 268 of your packet. I just wanted to let you know that this particular element is not actually required by the Growth Management Act. However, it was deemed important by the city and was written over 10 years ago, and so it's being updated along with this process. And this is probably the shortest element in the packet as well. So this element only has one goal. The goal is to enhance and maintain the quality of historical resources in the region. And we have about 18 policies. None of the policies have really changed from the original plan. However, they've been reworded a little bit, and we have added some more actionable type qualities, such as to write a historic preservation plan. One has never been written in the city. And when we do that, take it through the process, have it adopted, then we can look at inventories. We can apply for grants with King County Historical Preservation Office to do an inventory of historical structures and places and corridors in Auburn. And then we would also want to form an historic preservation committee to then decide which structures and or places we would want to move forward to try to get historic recognition. One of the things that I have done is I've added photographs for the six properties that are already on the National Register of Historic Places. And we have 5 of them are in the downtown core. We have the Auburn Masonic Temple. The architecture is Italian Renaissance Revival style. It was built in 1924. We have the Auburn Pioneer Cemetery, which was established in the 1860s. It's the city's oldest cemetery. We have the Auburn Post Office. It was built in 1937, and the city of Auburn acquired this building in 2016, as you know, to create the Auburn Postmark Center for Arts and Culture. The Mary Olson Farm is the only one that is not in the downtown area. It's on the north end of the city. And a partnership between the White River Valley Museum and the city fully restored this 1880s subsistence farm, which is on 67 acres. Next, we have the Oscar Blomeen House. It was built in 1914 by Oscar Blomeen, and it served as Auburn's first hospital during the 1917-1990 influenza, and it also became a maternity hospital and a surgical center. And then lastly, the Auburn Public Library, which is privately owned. In 1914, it celebrated its opening as a Carnegie Library. But presently it's not open or being used for anything. So what are the potential implications of these proposed changes? Well, as I mentioned before, there are a few things that would happen. We would write an historic preservation plan. That would be the first thing to do. Probably do that next year, take it through the process to be adopted. And then at the same time, work with the historic preservation, Key County Historic Preservation to do an inventory. We can apply for grants, and they will help us do an inventory citywide of not just structures, but significant places, or even corridors, neighborhood corridors can become historic places. And then the forming of the Historic Preservation Committee, they would help to identify which places we'd want to look to first to get recognized. We would need to amend the zoning code to support the Historic Preservation Plan. And one of the policies is the possibility of establishing a Historic Preservation Mitigation Fund, which would serve as, say, if a developer could not mitigate the property and they wanted to demolish something historical to do their project, a contribution to the fund would be required, so that would incentivize people to retain these historic places. And that ends my presentation. If you have any questions for
Council,
me.
do you have any questions? Councilwoman Bowen.
Yeah, though it was the smallest section, I had some input that I think from my year working with the Ready Coalition kind of brought a couple elements to mind. On, I think it's policy HP 17, which recognizes Auburn's past prior to the arrival of settlers by promoting Native American sites and artifacts. I would consider if we need to maybe incorporate some element of that into the vision statement, which speaks to Auburn in its existence as a city for 100 years, but there was community before that and there were people before that. So I would maybe inquire or challenge if we could incorporate an element of that into the vision statement on page 272 of the packet. And then the other piece, this may be more philosophical for my counterparts. When we talk about historic preservation of resources and assets, you know, this document is currently very focused on assets as far as buildings and historic sites. When I think of historic preservation, I also think of languages that are disappearing. I think of cultural traditions that are disappearing. And when we think about how to make Auburn a place that is community-based, we have not only the community that was here before Auburn, the community that has become Auburn, and the community that will be Auburn. I think about the fact that one of my favorite parts of this community is that we have people coming from all over the world to live here. And so they bring any number of cultural traditions with them. And so when we think about a preservation committee, I would maybe challenge or inquire if we wanted to expand the concept of that to be not only buildings, but other things that fit into a cultural tradition. Like the Auburn Festival, I think is fantastic. We've got our museum doing an exhibit on that currently. I think about the Marshallese community and their unique challenges where the Marshall Islands, for those who don't know, are disappearing as the oceans rise. And so as they're joining our community and quite literally losing the ground that existed that was theirs, is there something that can become part of them here with us, right? Can we bring them into our future history and preserve their traditions as well as part of not only Auburn before, but what we're becoming? So that's all.
That's great, thank you.
You know, I am just so excited to hear that we are doing this in the city of Auburn, because we do have a lot of older buildings still that are up and that need to be recognized, just like Rainbow Cafe. I didn't realize that the business itself has been in our city for quite a while. And now the owner has been there for a while as well, hasn't he? So yeah, this is really exciting to hear that we're doing this. And welcome to our Team Auburn.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, commissioners, or excuse me, council and mayor. My name is Alyssa Tetro, and I'm planner 2 at the city's community development department. And tonight I'll be giving an overview of the drafted climate element. And please note that my presentation slides begin on page 128 of your packet, and the draft climate element itself begins on page 277 of your packet. Okay, so in July of 2023, the Washington State Legislature passed House Bill 1181, which added climate change as the 15th planning goal of the Growth Management Act. And the bill requires that cities planning under the GMA adopt a climate element that's in full compliance by 2029. And the climate element is required to identify priority hazards, outline Auburn's local community risk index, and incorporate the two required sub-elements, which are resiliency and greenhouse gas emissions. The element also contains a heavy emphasis on environmental justice, focusing on addressing environmental and health disparities in marginalized and vulnerable communities. Next slide. So the addition of the climate change as the 15th planning goal emphasizes the importance of addressing climate change at the local level, and the climate element must address key aspects related to climate change mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. Some of the specific requirements outlined in the legislation include identification of greenhouse gas emissions sources and reduction targets, strategies for promoting renewable energy and energy efficiency, measures to enhance climate resilience in infrastructure, transportation, and land use planning, and the consideration of vulnerable populations. City staff have proposed to include the climate element in the 2024 comprehensive plan update process in order to begin working on climate change planning as soon as possible to ensure we are able to be in full compliance by that 2029 deadline. By engaging in this work early, staff has time to thoughtfully roll out a climate program to ensure that we are addressing all requirements by 2029. Adopting the element into the 2024 comprehensive plan is an advantage to us as it ensures that Auburn is eligible for state grant monies in order to work on research, engagement, and implementation steps for the element. By adopting the element now, we have plenty of time to work on our proposed action strategies and implementation piece of the state and county requirements that we will be held to. And this would be a proactive step towards addressing the challenges and opportunities that would be presented by climate change in Auburn. And incorporating this element is not just about meeting those regulatory requirements, it's also about safeguarding our natural environment, the health and well-being of our residents, and protecting our resources for future generations to come. So the City of Auburn has been actively engaged in some climate planning efforts before to address these impacts, and our existing climate planning resources include a greenhouse gas emission inventory, which was done in both 2008 and 2015, which tracks municipal and community emissions by source across these two time periods. In 2018, a climate action plan was also developed. This was never adopted, but it established the existing context for emissions and quality of the natural environment here in Auburn. And then lastly, we had a document created in 2023, which is our climate element framework, and this was developed in collaboration with city staff and a consulting team, and it recommended pathways and timelines for developing that climate element. And these efforts have laid the groundwork for Auburn for incorporating climate into our planning process. So as indicated earlier in this presentation, the climate change element has to include two sub-elements, and that a sub-element is a specific component or subsection of a comprehensive plan that focuses on a particular topic or area of interest within a larger planning framework. The two required sub-elements are greenhouse gas emissions and resiliency. The mitigation sub-element focuses on reducing greenhouse gas emissions and promoting sustainable practices in land use, transportation, energy, and the building sectors. And the resiliency sub-element addresses strategies to increase resilience to climate impacts such as extreme weather events. And this may involve identifying vulnerable areas, implementing infrastructure improvements, and developing emergency response plans to protect residents. Within the draft climate element, policies do have a star next to them which indicate where these policies stem from. So for example, whether it was developed for concurrency with Puget Sound Regional Council, King County, or the Department of Commerce's planning guidance. Okay, so now I'm going to discuss some of the potential implications of the proposed changes. So first, acknowledging that there are serious economic, social consequences that may come as a result of climate change and that will negatively impact potentially the built and social environment of the city of Auburn. So developing the climate element and striving towards these state emissions reductions allows Auburn staff and Auburn's community to better prepare for the implications of climate change and to ensure that the community has access to resources and data to aid in these resiliency efforts. The climate element will also address issues of social equity and environmental justice by considering the needs and priorities of vulnerable communities, such as low-income communities, communities of color, and indigenous communities. This will help ensure that any climate action benefits all residents and promotes equity and inclusivity. However, this will also be a challenge as more information is needed to fully understand the issue of environmental justice within Auburn city limits and ensure that all communities are equitably resourced. Another major implication of the draft climate element is the funding gaps that exist in order to meet these goals. For example, funding EV infrastructure in the city and other facility improvements will be a challenge, and funding sources are really not known at this time, funding sources as well as strategies. And then staff will also need to amend the city code to support this plan. This could look like changing certain development regulations in certain sections of code. So for example, something like that could be including increased tree retention requirements that would help to combat urban heat island effects. Okay, and so the greatest hurdle that we face moving forward with implementing the climate element is being accountable to the state and county and regional policies and targets that we have. So adopting the climate element now is the first step in addressing these issues. By adopting this climate element now, city staff can begin to work on implementation plans for addressing all of the requirements that we'll need to meet by 2029. And climate change and planning are a citywide issue. Public works, particularly transportation, are also vital stakeholders in the planning for climate change process. In addition, we will need to coordinate with the tribe and ensure the City of Auburn's climate program is aligned with tribal plans and considerations. So moving forward, we will want to work closely with neighboring jurisdictions, the tribe, and local agencies to ensure that we are utilizing the best available data, meeting state requirements, and looking at climate change from a regional perspective. Our next steps for planning for climate change include developing and rolling out an engagement plan and a 5-year work plan. And staff have accepted a grant from the Department of Commerce, and we will be using this to work with Cascadia Consulting to develop a climate program, which helps ensure that we are on track to meeting those state and regional targets. And this grant and consultant contract was accepted by Council on August 5th under resolution number 5779. And there's already a little bit of work underway on this. They are reviewing, Cascadia is reviewing our drafted element to ensure that we did address all of the requirements that will be included in the 2029. And with that, that concludes my overview of the climate element.
I am just so happy to hear you say that you're wanting to meet with the tribal. It's very important that we keep that relationship and work very closely with them because they are our neighbors. And so thank you for making that statement because it's very important for our cities to continue that friendship and that bridge. Councilwoman Baldwin.
I was going to give just a quick bit of feedback in going through this packet. Goals 3 and 10. It looks like your font may need to be updated to a header font, which I know is just like a minor thing. I was going to call out in the vision statement on this one, it made a reference that there was concentrations of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere continuing to rise to levels not measured for millions of years, which is a weird statement because with ice cores we can in fact measure carbon historically. So that might need a bit of a revision. In the section on heat for page 284, one other potential impact that might be worth noting is during periods of extreme heat, or like the heat dome of 2021, 911 and emergency responders also experienced overwhelm from the number of calls that occurred. So that would be another sort of logistical component of planning for heat response. And then in the section on page 286 for wildfire smoke, having to close windows due to wildfire smoke worsens again the extreme heat conditions if people are boxed into their homes without airflow. I have two other things that are a bit more discussion, but I want to make sure.
Council, does anyone have any questions? No? Okay.
And then the last bit is I would hope to see included a goal because I know we spoke to canopy throughout the document, but putting as a priority item, establishing a canopy target for the city. And that may already be in consideration as part of the recommended ordinance that was mentioned in the document. And then I don't know if it would be within this document or building codes, but potentially looking at a forward target where we would want to be having different air conditioning available as part of housing standards, either in building code or revisions there, which was noted, I think, for commercial properties, but not necessarily residential or multifamily. But otherwise, sorry, I know it was a big list. You can tell I was very excited to dig into this one, not only because it's new, but because I think that the more we can do for our community in this space, the sooner the better. So thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Okay, the only thing that I have are the next steps. So tonight is the study session for the resolution. August 19th will be council action on this resolution. And then August to October 2024, we'll have workshops on the package 2, Public Works and Parks Comprehensive Plan updates. October to November 2024, we'll have study sessions, workshops, again on package 1, but also the code updates. We'll bring those forward. And then, all goes well, December 2nd, we will have council action and adoption on the comprehensive plan and related code amendments. So, thank you.
I'm glad you could still smile about it and laugh.
That's my goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Since, okay, the next one is resolution number 5782. And that is our ad hoc committee with council member Amir.
Let's start with the new update, section 13. Then after that, we will take any note if anyone has any note. So,
did you want to move up there?
No. Oh, you want me to move near?
No, you stay where you are.
No, I can come.
No, it's fine.
Then we can talk under.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
Okay.
No, I can come. Then we can face everybody. Oh, so. No, I did not want presentation, but if this is the whole package.
They can see your absence. Got
Can you update on? No? Okay. Oh, thank you. There's one with G. Yep, I like it. I did not open the right one. Good job.
I think you did. It's just with that.
It might be better viewed if you open up the PDF one,
Okay.
so there's not all the words.
I know, it's so looks so weird. Oh, I like it.
Don't watch that while you're scrolling.
Oh, don't look. That's the best when you be online, you present and you want people to get busy. It's 13.
Correct. Almost there.
Oh, I'm up.
No, that's 12. There we go.
Okay. We'll not read it. We just have it here and I want to hear from you. If you look to it, we make it so will be everybody if we have any absent. So everybody will get the opportunity to review all the application. And this is go under even our ad hoc committee that should not be part of any ad hoc committee, should come to the floor to all council. So we're ready to hear comment before we move to the next.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
You're looking at the whole 13, or is there a 13 point something?
It's 13.1. Yeah.
We start from 13.2, 13.3. This is the new. If we have any opening, then the clerk will share the information, then bring the resume to the council. Then the council, if we have many, you submit it back for, have you read the application? Go ahead.
Okay. The ad hoc committee met last Monday before our council meeting for about an hour. We discussed the council position, vacancy or absence. Like former Director Tate had presented to council at study session on July 29th, he gave us a couple of different options to take a look at: Vancouver, Bothell, and Lacey. The ad hoc committee met. We went through all three, and we picked through some, not all from one city. Actually, it was Vancouver and Bothell. Right?
And Lacey.
And Lacey,
and
it was
Lacey too.
part from each one.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everything from 13.3 down are new and added to the council policy and procedure.
And I would like to say I missed half of that meeting, so I was not aware of them going through that. And then at the end, they did tell me which ones that they were looking at to revise. So I just want to make it clear.
For clarification, before you attend the meeting, the only one thing we talk about is that we wanna consolidate, select what we wanna put. Our attorney recommendation that we write what we want. So I went there, I put them in the file, and they sent it to everybody. I mean, everybody to the ad hoc. And you stop by my desk and they show it to you.
You're
Yes,
correct.
so you did not miss anything. Again, I wanna hear what's the comment about it. Because if you look, it's open for anybody if anyone has any comment.
This just gives a little more structure to appointment or a vacancy for a council member on how the council goes about in selection of a new council member.
So this process will be like, everybody will be part of it. As part of our, if you go look to our ad hoc committee, it should not be, and I think I mark it.
There is no.
Yeah, we have in 13, our ad hoc should not go in ad hoc at all. Ad hoc committee should not limit information going to council. They should present everything to council to get input from all council. That's one of the things. We have it before in our ad hoc rules. I can look to the what point I'm talking about it. Because you never limit number, or because council should be, you should not down select number. By having this, outline it, that will never ever happen. So everybody can get the opportunity to give their input, process clear, allowed, and go in public.
You know, we've got the mayor in just about every single items in here. And this is our council policy and procedure book. We should be making the decisions. We have to separate legislative and government. And I see when we put the mayor in here, that's including the legislative body,
If you go through,
executive body.
if you go through and look, it asks, she asks for nominations. She has no say in the vote or anything. She just asks for nominations. She polls the council members. This has nothing, mayor does not do anything when it comes to voting in a new council member. It is all council. She just facilitates
That
The
should
direction.
be the deputy mayor to be doing that. And is this during a council meeting?
This is
It does
doing,
not
yeah,
say that.
no, this is during council meeting.
This does not say that. Where does it say that?
It's mentioned there, we'll be meeting and during council meeting. The mayor will be running, the mayor will be only the facilitate the meeting, will go with the executive with us, her job only facilitate. So no one council has any power than other council.
It's 13.1.
It's not about power. It's about our council rules and procedures.
13.1, the council may make such appointment at its next regular meeting or at a special meeting called for that purpose. So this is during a council meeting or a special meeting. This is nothing other than that.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, I don't have reference back because I don't have the old rules and procedures with us. Did they do that at a study session before, or has it always been at a council meeting?
It's always a council meeting, and if you wanna think about rule and procedure, that's what we have, 13.1, and they think they just divide it with the other one, that's the only change. It's done by council meeting.
Do we have an old council procedure book to go by as well?
Yeah, if in the package they sent it. And that's what we have 13.1 and 13.2, that's the only we have. So we never had it. Go ahead, Councilmember Paul.
Thank you. So my understanding is that at the June 29th, sorry, thank you, the July 29th meeting, Director Tate had presented the samples of vacancy policies from Lacey, Bothell, and Vancouver for consideration. And so this iteration of rules and procedures is an attempt to incorporate what had been pulled from those examples. And so I think this may be kind of a initial reading for some folks. I think there may have been an expectation that the changes viewed today would be the same as what had been previously brought forward. So I don't know if the chair would want, but a 5-minute recess could give council members a chance to do a quick read through and continue discussion on this topic.
I know we all should have had read it before we came to council, but if I think we should break for just a 5-minute to review the old guidelines that we have. 5 minutes is not a long time, just so that we could review it.
Take the 5 minutes. What we have before, the only 3 point ahead.
The original was the 13.1 and 13.2.
That's it. With anything black in color, this is the original what we have or what we had. So 5 minutes. Yeah.
Could you put us on time?
Can you take 5 minutes?
To return at what time?
Presumably 7:50.
7:50? Okay. Yes.
That's my water. No, mine. I don't need yours.
All right, there you go.
Like a soda. I haven't had coffee or anything. For real, I haven't had anything.
Nancy, do you have an policy book on
All that's in there is 13.1 and 13.2.
That's it, yeah.
And it's hard to see the color differentiation on the monitor. So
Just look up there. See how
That
that
one, the others
versus
is
the red.
That one is full red.
But we have it in our, make it bigger.
Mm-hmm. Just there. You open it
Yolanda,
up,
I've got
procedures.
last version from June 5th. Is that the last?
Yes,
The last one.
this is the last one. Page 22nd.
I've read all of that word for word. There is nothing in
This is just an opportunity for all of you to talk about whatever changes before. I'll put that question back on you. Do you need more time on the site discussion?
We could start.
I need one too.
Wait, okay, we can go ahead and start.
No, she just ran up to get some snacks.
It's okay, we can start our meeting.
Have you get opportunity to read it?
I did.
Okay, what's your comment? What's
I
open
don't
for
have
comment?
one.
Okay, I'll go to the second. Go ahead.
Yeah, I general, it looks pretty good. The one thing I would call out from our last iteration and going through and trying to find a replacement for Councilmember Stearns when he had departed council was my understanding in the process when we did that is that they had at least attempted to strike the names and identifying information from the applications, which I don't know to the level that that was effective or not, but I know that I appreciated at least the effort to try and provide more impartiality in the initial review of the applicants. And so that initial review had been done through the ad hoc committee at the time, and then they brought back to us what was essentially a ranking based off of the application. And so,
Okay.
And so I would ask my other,
Go ahead.
Okay, so I would ask my other council members if redacting identifiable information about the candidates is something that we would want to consider as a step in the process.
So after I read our ad hoc committee, I find it, let me read you. It's our policy clear that they should not restricted from down select any application, because even if they're down select application, they should share all the information should come to the council, should not be. So that's before. That's why our rules is it's here. If you go where is ad hoc, it's a clear.
Yeah. I'm not saying have a filtering before council. What I'm saying is if we're going to bring all of the potential candidates to council, I think in that first screening, it'd be beneficial to have the redaction completed by the clerk's office so that when we're, as a full body, doing that initial review and evaluation, that there is perhaps a little bit more of, of anonymity in that step. So I'm not saying have an ad hoc committee do a filtering. I'm saying when we all see that first round of application, can we redact identifiable information in that first round of what comes to council?
I have comment, but go ahead.
I won't disagree with the redaction of the names on the applications. I'm sorely against having an ad hoc committee because in past experience,
That wasn't what I was asking.
Okay, I know, but what I'm saying is that they did that in the ad hoc committee last time around. They took out all of the personnel information. However, that didn't work out very well. So I think I'm fine with it. I'd like to see what Councilmember Ammer feels.
So if you look to 1309, the ad hoc will send us the list. For me, for my opinion, like how you remove name if people file for council, what we say qualification, we should not. Let's say how many people will file, 20?
I think last time it was 16-ish.
No, it's 25.
25? Then take us time as we written here, you sent your list, then the clerk will make like who made it. I don't feel, this is me personally as a council, I don't feel because the bias, I know the clerk do not have a bias, but as a human, you never know where is your bias go. That's why I feel like if we get 25, how much information we get, then I said, okay, I like number A5 and here is written, you just sent it to them, they'll make master one, then at the end we get between 10, 15. This is my opinion. But if you agree, you want to move it to be clerk, go ahead, Mayor.
So if you want to remove names and addresses, we can in HR or wherever the applications are received, we can remove names and addresses off of the applications that all council members receive, replace that with a number.
Okay.
And then if you move forward with this, all council members would review all 25 of the applications. Let's say there were 25 that came in, and then they would provide their top 15 or top 10, whatever you want, by just putting the numbers of the applications that they like. Then when it becomes a public document, then the names, after that top 15 is selected, then the names, we could still redact addresses for the moment, I believe.
We should.
Could be removed. But for the initial process, when council is looking at all of the applications, we could remove the names and addresses.
But what you asked, Kate, I have not eaten anything, so I'm working half brain today.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm not trying to have any filtering. I think council should see all of the applications that come in, but I think there should be a step when their applications are received by likely the clerk's office, that there would be a step to redact those, provide a number, and then we use the number to provide back, I think in step 13.9, what individual council members would provide as their rankings.
Thank you. Go ahead, Council.
We did do it that way. What we did is, by the mayor's office, we got together, Ms. Hidman mentioned to us that when the city hires, they have their names and the race and all the age, all of the personal information is taken out, so that way they could go by their qualifications on their application. So that's what council decided to do, is to remove all of that information, and it was numbered. And that's how we also voted on, is by the numbers. But it was very obvious, Kate's correct, it was very obvious by the applicants. We knew pretty much some of the people that applied for these positions. And so you did, because I knew several of them that applied personally, I knew right away, but I did not say anything to anyone. And we did it just the way that the mayor and the city does the applicants. We didn't change anything else.
Thank you. I'm looking for the Kit Kat, but
So for clarification, under 13.5, it currently reads application received by the deadline and time will be copied and circulated, etc. From what I'm hearing, I think that the proposed, if this is okay with council, the proposed language should be applications preceded by the deadline, date, and time will have personally identifying information removed and be copied and circulated by the clerk's office, blah, 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 blah.
Thank you.
Sounds good to me.
Sound great. Okay. Go ahead, Council Bolden.
Thank you. The other piece I was going to bring up was 13.8, where each council member is submitting an interview question. When we had done the activity previously, if I recall, I think we submitted 3 questions, and then it was, I'm not sure who took the step, but they went through those and tried to organize them. I wouldn't mind having the final set of questions reviewed by council, so that way if someone had a particular question that they were really like gung-ho for, they would have a chance to make sure it got entered and get in. So I don't mind consolidating them and trying to bring those questions together, but I think it would have been a nice step to be able to see the full list before we got into the interview stage. I don't know what other council members think.
I was reading one of the city, even they were requesting, because it kind of made it anonymous. They were saying you submit 2 questions, so each council you submit 2 questions. Your question, like me and Clinton, we have the same question, then we get only one, my second question. So now you're saying we submit 3 or?
I'm saying, however we do the question submittal, I think it would be great if we have a step where when the questions have all been compiled, that we can kind of approve the final list of questions.
Well, I believe you're submitting essentially 7 questions, including deputy mayor, right? So from each council member, well, 6,
because
but, if we had, yes.
Right.
But I think that's plenty. I mean, you can pick from them, no?
Yeah. will be public.
Well, if you're going to ask 6 questions of the candidates, you cannot vote on those because you'd be voting on them in public at a meeting before those. So if you said you want to make sure that council members have the question in that they want to ask, then that should be the question that they submit. 6 questions are asked of each candidate, and that should cover it.
Go ahead.
The reason I think it would be beneficial to review the questions, and if the questions are known by all the candidates in advance, that's fine, they're just interview questions. I think what's relevant to having council as a body figure out what they want to ask is, we do so much in our roles as far as understanding municipal, understanding comp plans, understanding budget, understanding different facets of government. I think that it would be really nice to be able to see what range of questions do we want to make sure are included, because I think you could have people who you have more than one council member saying, I want asking for the same thing like you said in your example. So I don't know if we would want to, how we would want to organize that. I don't have a solution necessarily, but I didn't love how it worked last time, and I'm just looking for ideas for how we can improve that to make sure that the questions we ask are doing a solid job vetting those potential candidates.
I hear you. At the same time, as a person, you want to imagine when people file for office, no one will interview them, ask them. They'll get, they go through campaign to be elected. So kind of even when we want to get someone, our question should be different because we're not putting people on spot. We want to see, are they fitting not even knowledge or what they know, because we may get someone know nothing about budget, but we see like this would be a good team, has his heart with the city. That's me. So I feel like, yeah, we want to do question, but same time we want to keep it different. We're not because you can bring someone, again, I did not make it to the top 5 last time. So, but if you think of it, I won the election. So we need to think this is kind of like we bring people to interview. I don't know how to describe it. We don't want to make it like interview harder. We want to make it, each council will ask what they look for their new council member. That's my thinking. I'm one vote. I know you, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think what was unique in the circumstance with having Councilmember Stearns leave for council was that he had served for a long time in the city. The duration remaining on his...
He didn't finish 2 years.
I believe he had done a second term.
No.
He's going on his second term when he stepped down.
Oh, 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so looking at the remainder of his term, I know for me, one of the evaluators that was meaningful was who I felt could come in and hit the ground running, and someone that did have knowledge of the city, its stakeholders and operations. And so, you know, this isn't an election, this is filling a seat that is time limited for who's gonna finish out that term. And so I think if there are things that we want to evaluate as far as readiness, it would be beneficial for council to figure out what those questions could be. And so having visibility to the fact that I don't know what 6 other people are gonna put in makes it a little bit challenging if you only get one, like, I get one. You know what I mean? Like, how do we collectively come up with a good set?
Yeah, but let's say, okay, each one will submit their question, then we share it. What will make it different? We can submit the question. We sent it to the mayor, Melissa will send it to us, then we know each body what they will ask. Are we going to change our question? Because Clinton, he asked this question, his question cooler than mine. That's my comment. Like, I feel like when you go, usually when you do interview on job, you're looking candidate, there is life skill, there is knowledge, so the question should be different. Do they know city? Do they know policy? Maybe they'll come running. They maybe take them 1 week, then we have body, one of council will shadow them. That's my opinion.
What helped me choose is that I received a lot of comments from our constituents that they really wanted somebody that knew Auburn, that lived in Auburn, that worked in Auburn, that really knew Auburn. And that really helped me also because a lot of people that are new that come in that don't really know Auburn, that's how I picked my question. Don't go like that to me.
No, Yolanda, when I say thank you.
I'm sharing what our constituents here in Auburn shared with us council members.
Thank you. I heard you. There is, but we're not talking about the past, what happened.
No, I'm just saying that for
we're
us
not
to
talking,
make
we talking how we move forward. That's what we think. Because if you said people know Auburn, everyone live in Auburn, know Auburn. Do we talk about how many years some of here in council live less than others?
It helps.
So that's why we're not, we want to move. Go, Kate. Go ahead, Kate.
Go ahead. I will.
Yeah, all I was thinking is it might be beneficial, we could use a study session, and if we want a game plan as a council, how we want to come up with our questions, that would be helpful. If Clinton has a great question, and it's one of maybe 3 I'm considering, it would be fantastic to know, because if he's got it covered, I might in fact change what I would ask instead, not to be duplicative. So that's why I think having it, I don't think there's risk of having us have that dialogue in that situation of how we want to, what that question set would look like.
So I think, even with that, so we don't feel like we're grouping, maybe we do it like what we do like our tours. Each 3, they'll meet together to decide what their question. Like what we do our presentation. So 3 of us, we sit together, that's my question. So this group 1, we submit each one individual. Group 2, they'll meet together, submit their 3 questions. By this way we'll have, no one will have influence. We divided to be 2 groups. Go ahead.
I don't know,
because I feel like I don't agree that to have it public. Usually it's the best part. The candidates will show they don't know ahead what the question, then you know their ability.
Think on your feet.
Yes, go ahead.
I think a lot, I've got so many thoughts here. I think the questions, I think it should be individual, and then we all compile one, and then that's what it is. That's it. We'll ask those questions. Everybody is adult and smart enough to figure out their own question. We can ask to the next candidate. I believe they don't need to have the questions before their interview. They need to think on their feet.
Go. Okay.
If we each get 1 question, then I don't think we need 13.8. If we don't need to send it in, if we don't need to discuss it and it's on us to think on our feet, then I think we should each have 1 question that we ask during the interview. And
So
call
just
it that.
this is
We don't need to compile it. We don't need to assess it. We'll just have to ask on the spot.
only one reason, so we do not have same question, accidentally same question. That's.
But aren't we all in the room for asking the interview?
You need to come prepared with, go ahead, Mayor.
Well, I think one of the reasons for submitting the questions is to ensure that they are legal questions to ask.
Oh,
that's a good call. So it would be reviewed by legal, and then those questions would be sent out to council.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
So are you saying that the questions would be previewed by council before we would use them?
No, what I was referring to is you asked, why do we even need to send them in? The answer is to compile the list and ensure through legal that each of those questions are appropriate to ask.
Okay, then should we just send it straight to legal?
You still, when staff, you have to CC the mayor. We have it in our policy.
For working with the city attorney, that's the one role that we actually can work directly with.
That's Kate.
If it's only a matter of that it's legal.
With both, sometimes you need the wisdom too. I understand you don't want the mayor to be included, which fine, you still be running the meeting. That's fine. We can send it to the legal, but we need someone to compile them together to move them to the legal. And we follow up with that. So that's the main point. We need someone to be like, okay, they sent us, you have this time, you need to send it. That's the point.
What I see here is that you've taken out the deputy mayor completely out of this picture.
It's not, there is no rules
Completely.
for
Deputy mayor is not running the council meeting. The
No,
mayor
I
is.
know, but when you're talking about the interviewing and sending the questions to the attorney, that's what you got, a deputy mayor instead of the mayor. I'm not gonna be running the meeting, but when we do that presentation, when we're bringing the candidates forward, I understand the mayor is going to be running that meeting. But for something like this, there is a deputy mayor to be sent information, and you guys have taken that out completely. And I'm not saying I'm gonna be the deputy mayor because maybe forgot what Larry's gonna come back. You know, he is our deputy mayor, and you guys are completely taking that portion out.
Thank you. Yes?
Guess I would just ask from our city attorney's perspective if that would be in any way violating the OPMA by everyone sending emails to the acting deputy mayor or the deputy mayor.
Yes, that's, thank you. So
I'm
we
sorry,
need.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry, Mayor.
I asked if that would violate the Open Public Meeting Act by having all council members correspond to the deputy mayor. And the city attorney said he believes it would.
How is that different than sending it to the mayor in that situation?
Because with the OPMA, if there is action amongst the council members, amongst four, excuse me, that's when the violation occurs. If there is one-way communication with the mayor, because then you would have 5 other people emailing deputy mayor, that one person would then have the combination of the thoughts and deliberations of each of the council members. If that number were to exceed 4, or exceed 3, then the violation, I think, it's arguable. I'm not the judge or jury that would make that determination, but I think that's a solid argument to make.
Okay. So the other counterpart would be back to my recommendation, which is why don't we just develop our question set as a council body in a council meeting, which also would protect us from OPMA violations and let us, as a group, decide what we want to ask.
Yes, Cheryl.
Kate, I understand what you're saying, but as a person that went through that process, if you got the questions beforehand, you could talk to zillions of people and have the perfect answers. You want them thinking on their feet to, like at that moment, to see how they work. You don't want them to have a perfect answer. You don't want them to research those answers.
I think Kate, sorry.
Hold on. Did you finish, Council?
Yeah, that's fine.
Go ahead, Clint.
I hear everybody, but that's not necessarily what I heard her saying. I don't know, I didn't hear anything about, making it available to the folks that would be interviewed prior to that. I don't think personally that, we need to have this long drawn out process where, everybody shows up in the room with, I don't know, however many questions. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just saying that if all of us showed up with 10 questions apiece and we had a study session about it or we went in the chamber about it, I could see us being in there for hours trying to agree on 5 or 6 questions to ask people. And so I think that it also just kind of gives you the ability to, as I would say probably in, swing your best shot. you know, throw your best pitch. If your best question, I mean, because when I went through the process, I think we all got like 6 questions, right? Of course, if I were sitting there, I probably would have liked to ask more questions, but, you know, we had like 15 minutes, we had 6 questions. You know, I don't know how the council came up with those 6 questions, but I mean, I feel confident that, you know, we're looking at their resumes, we already kind of know their qualifications, we mark out their names and any identifying markers, we put numbers on there, and we sit down and honestly, really 15 minutes is not a long time to really like, but you're asking your best, you put your best question forward, that person's still gotta answer 6 questions. You know, and they still gotta answer those in a way that I think once they answer those 6 questions, regardless of what yours is and yours is, I think I can assess whether or not, you know, how well I think they did in terms of how they answered the question. And so I would be okay with, you know, just, you know, everybody submitting, you know, a couple of questions or 1 question or whatever, and then I don't have a problem with it going to the mayor and the mayor, you know, forwarded it to the legal team or however that needs to be done. I don't have a problem with us discussing it in chamber. I'm just trying to, you know, alleviate, you know, adding more onto our plate to do and having another meeting to talk about how we're gonna have questions for the potential person coming in to fill the seat. So,
Thank you, Clinton.
I mean,
I want to say something because each one of us will make our decision different. So I be asking question. This is what I'm looking for. We may not even thank you, Clinton. We may sit in the meeting and we will not agree in the question because I'm looking for something will not match Clinton, will not match you or Cheryl. So I think the best way.
Nope,
Yes.
finish your thought.
No, I said the best way, we send it to someone, this is my question, then because even if we met, as Clinton said, we may not agree. Question, go ahead.
Ultimately, what it comes down to, and from what I'm gathering from all of this, is there is a big hang up of giving anything to the mayor. Questions, anything. That's the big hang up. I think she's the one that's conducting the meeting. She needs to be the one that gets this off to legal for them to take a look at the questions to make sure they're appropriate. I'm not sure why there's a hang up with sending anything to the mayor. I'm confused by that. She's the mayor. So
Clinton, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll be back to you.
No,
if you
I know. Sometimes you need to pause and think.
Okay.
You know, before you say what you're thinking and kind of gather your thoughts. I think that giving voice to everybody, I validate that, and I hear what Councilmember Ball was saying, what everyone said. Again, I think it's just, yeah, I'm a pass. Go ahead, I'm a pass.
Okay.
I'm a pass.
So I'll speak for myself on this one, which is, it's not about in this item or item 13 about trying to pull anything back from the mayor. It's about having gone through the experience, the question set process. I didn't love how it worked previously, and I would have liked in the previous go around to have known in advance what my other counterparts would be asking, because that would influence how I would put my question together. The other aspect of that is when we were on the dais and we were going through the interviews, sometimes a candidate answering another person's question would partially or half answer the one that somebody else had. And so what I'm looking for is to be able to be engaged as a council member and saying, hey, I think it's important when we evaluate candidates that we can work together and come up with a list that we feel is appropriate to make sure that whoever's stepping into this position is going to do a great job for the city. And it's not to say that the mayor can't go, run through some questions, or that the clerk couldn't run through some questions, or that legal couldn't. But in my world, I think that, one, I don't have the same concern that others here do about candidates seeing those questions in advance, because I think that also levels the playing field. Because if someone's going to go do their homework and show up ready, that tells me how they're going to be on the dais. I'm not upset with that. The other aspect of it is that, like I said, I value the questions that other people may bring, and if I have, as I always do, a list of a bunch of them, knowing what everybody else is gonna ask will influence which one I would prioritize to put forward. So it's not about saying, oh, in this occasion, I'm trying to take something from the mayor. It's about saying, I'm looking for a process that I think would work well for me.
Which, thank you. If you think of it, I'm trying to look like your process. You want us, all of us, to match one thing while we're different. So we need to accept the different. I know you may want someone to be ready, to be, at the same time, sometimes we need someone, we ask them, we need them to be more flexible. So if you think of it, we all different. At the end, I think the question, each one should submit their own question as long as we're not asking the same question, we'll be fine. Because I may look for something different than anybody. That's my thinking.
Mayor, did we submit questions to you last time?
Yes, based on the special focus area that you were either the chair or the vice chair of.
Okay.
So we can do
I
it.
knew we did something, but I wasn't sure.
Yes, Clinton.
And I don't have a problem with that. I think I don't have a problem with us seeing what the other council members' questions are. I think, I don't have a problem with that. And I think Kate's point is taken is like, oh, well, I was gonna ask that same question, or that sounds similar to the question I was gonna submit. Let me submit a different question. I don't have a problem with that. I think that we've made this point a little bit more
Didn't need, okay.
than we probably needed to at this point. I think that it's either we submit some questions and, you submit 2 or 3 questions, those questions are sift through and we came up with these 6 questions. How does this look? Great. Okay, let's roll with those. I think we just kind of.
As I'm a person who's flexible, I think, okay, we submit our 6th question. We receive the email, the agenda before. If you think any council is open, like, if it would be me, I see question like, oh God, this question matching, I will submit another one. I think there is no rule saying you cannot take your question back. As long as you do it before we go for the interview and you give opportunity for the legal to respond. Is that correct? Go ahead.
And as long as you ask that revised question to every single candidate.
Yes, when you do it ahead of time. And we usually get our agenda or question like early, so you can get like, no, I'm changing my question, then.
So let's just take the path of least resistance here on 13.8. Instead of saying 1 question, how about 3 from each council member? Mayor submits them out to legal, and then ultimately we nail them down. We figure it out. Because quite frankly, we're gonna go round and round in circles.
Okay.
Not everybody is going, one size doesn't fit all. So we need to come to some sort of agreement on this.
Okay.
To move this forward.
Yeah, that's one bottle that has you submit 3 questions, then, okay, submit a 3 question, go to the legal, but you need at the end to choose one for your question will be the only one question you ask it for all candidates. I'm fine with it. You need to come with 3 questions. Go ahead.
I like but again, I'm gonna say the past, you may not like what I say, but we each presented something from our ad hoc committee, our focus group. And we did submit 2. And that's what we asked of the people.
So, and this is another way, I think technically that we wanna do from our ad hoc, you can think what you wanna submit.
Well, that was the part that I didn't like previously because the questions I wanted had nothing to do with my special focus area.
Okay.
So that was why,
So let's make it like this. You submit question from your ad hoc, you submit 2 questions, up to you. Each one, 3 free questions. Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Here's what I'm this is y'all's process, so I
Go
don't wanna,
ahead.
But what I'm kind of hearing, because I'm trying to think of language, perhaps each council member could submit 2 questions with a primary question identified.
Okay.
If 2 questions are similar, the mayor will reach out to those candidates and ask if they want to move to their second question.
You mean council members?
What did I say?
Yeah, you
Sorry.
said candidate.
Sorry,
That's
council
why I
members.
give you that.
Okay, sorry, council members.
Okay, yes. And this
But
is,
that has to be y'all's decision. It cannot be mine. So if you don't like it, then I'll stop.
I say go for it.
I'm fine with it. Okay, because we have a lot of things we need to move.
Kate,
I mean, they're gonna need to be vetted by legal, totally legit. Someone's gotta coordinate it. That would be an administrative function, which, like I said, would either be the mayor or clerk, so that's fine. My big thing was on this item is that I would love to preview what the full list is ahead of going into the actual interview cycle, because if there's any change upon seeing the full list, I'd like there to be a window to modify, as requested. It wasn't that they're gonna be aggregated. No, someone's gotta do that step. It was more about being able to see the full set before we get into the final hours.
couldn't we do like he suggested, if the mayor sees that there's repetitive questions, go back to that council member and say, hey, it's already been asked. Can you come up with another one?
It's fine.
The mayor at some point will send the list to everybody. BCC, we are blind. You wanna change your question, you reply back, said, I wanna remove my question. I think that would be, I know, sorry, mayor, we add more work for you. So, as we said, okay, do we move to next one? Any comment about this? Okay,
Well, you would need to change that from accept 1 interview question to 2.
I'll make that
Yeah,
change.
you have to change
Yeah,
that.
Yes.
I'm taking that, yeah.
oh, pass it here. Oh, yes,
I said no tonight for once.
no you, but
I did.
Okay, where are we going next?
I'm open. Do we have any question about this one? If no, so I wanna open it for anyone has any comment about last meeting. Like you say the page, then we go ahead to it.
All the pages are. Hanan, can we take it in order, like the changes? And just, you can ask everybody if they have any comment on that one.
Just mean to stay the whole night. Okay, let's make it quick. It's 8. So we're not talking about the change page number here. I'm going to, do you see this one?
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, we see it.
Any comment about that? Okay.
No.
Hold on, I got
You need to make it bigger. Second. Which, I think it's show page number 3. We're now on page number 4. Page number 5.
Or just call out the sections because the pages are
Yeah.
different. Just call out what
Yeah,
section.
call it sections, 'cause it's.
Okay. I can open mine, then I call in.
You got it right there on the
We're
screen.
in, oh, I wanna look.
Just scroll the screen, scroll the section, call it out.
Okay,
There you go.
section 1 and 2. Section 2.2.
Can I make a suggestion?
Go ahead.
So to speed it up, does anyone have anything from section 2?
Raise
If
your
they
hand.
don't, then we move to section 3.
Okay.
And we move to section 4.
section 3, you want me to move the whole section? Okay.
Yeah, if they got a comment, they should have notes by now.
I had to get back into it, so hold on just a second.
Yes.
Yeah. From the
What
recommend,
section?
well, for section 2, where we're defining different types of council meetings, I had in my recommendations for rules and procedures, the recommendation that we would consider having defined our council retreat as a type of council meeting, and potentially the ability to have town halls as another type of council meeting. And so I had put those recommendations forward as suggestions. In the last meeting, I was told that we couldn't do that. I found examples from other code cities with mayor, council, forms of government, where their rules and procedures do in fact include sections and language pertaining to defining retreats and defining other types of community meetings. So is that something that we would want to consider bringing into the definition of our council meetings? I thought the benefit that we would potentially have for formalizing our annual council retreat is that it would encourage better advanced planning for council, giving us perhaps an opportunity to look at different ways that we could address that and supporting not only our advanced planning for when we have to juggle our jobs and council, but also for helping people when they're trying to plan out trips and vacations and things. Also, when I had first joined council, I think my first year we didn't have a retreat, the second year we had a retreat. And so given that those retreats are a time for us to, work on strategy and planning and doing a lot on behalf of the city, I just think we would really benefit from formalizing how, when, where we want to have those, how much we want to invest in it, those types of things.
So to answer, you said the first year, you have to remember, you've been elected year of COVID. So I think let's review these before we start talking about new things, because we start going back. I hear you that you want to schedule new meeting for us to, which you put it which part here and which page?
In my recommendations, it was under number 5. So I suggested adding a section on other council meetings, or it would be something that could be incorporated into section 2. That's where we're
The
defining.
city council and the mayor shall meet regularly, at least once a month at a place, and at such time maybe. Why? Oh, go ahead.
So when you are talking about retreats, how much is the mayor involved in the council retreats? Is it primarily put on by staff, or is the mayor, what does the mayor do?
So I think it has varied by year, but my understanding is that the retreat for council is to be organized and managed by the deputy mayor, and the agenda is to be set by the deputy mayor, and that's based on input from council members about what they want to do within that time frame. The reason I have included the reference to RCW 35A 12.110 is that that's the state code for council meetings, which dictates that we meet at times and places as designated by council. So it is within our purview to define if we want to have retreats.
Sure.
And when told that, no, this is administrative, I went out and I found evidence that other cities do in fact cover retreats in their rules and procedures.
Sure, but the question is how much input is the mayor doing in that? Because if it's going to be considered a regular meeting, a regular council meeting, the mayor is presiding over that meeting, correct?
As she typically presides over other meetings and special meetings.
Okay, so then is she involved with the retreat?
I would expect, yeah, just as our directors would be.
Okay. Does she conduct the retreat?
Define conduct.
Well, I mean, staff put on the retreat last time, right?
Mhm.
So was that considered a regular meeting to you?
No, I would consider that a retreat. as a
Okay, but-
special type of meeting, which was a council meeting.
But it also falls in the purview of the same thing that you're saying here is a regular meeting.
Let me clarify. Regular meetings under section 2.1 are the meetings referring to our first and third Mondays that we have every month. A retreat would be a special type of meeting that I'm suggesting we document and define here within our rules and procedures to say, do we want to have this every year? How many days do we want it to be? Who should be involved?
But we already have those in place. Retreats happen every year, actually twice, correct? Am I wrong?
No. You are wrong.
No, you're wrong.
Well, we had a leadership retreat and then we have a budget retreat, do we not?
There's not a retreat for that.
Okay.
So the reason I think it would benefit us to define how we want to handle our retreats, and this is something that is council working with staff and administration, is so that we can be more functional in what we can get out of it. I'll be quite frank, the first year that we did have a retreat, when I was a council member, we got the agenda at 4:30 the night before. That wasn't great, because what are we gonna do with that? We spent 3/4 of the meeting talking about our personality colors, which was not, I didn't think, an effective use of time for council. So if I'm talking about formalizing a retreat as a very specific type of council meeting to be set by council with what we want to see and the agenda we'd like to lay out, I think that there's a lot that we can put into that. I haven't outlined what to include because my first step is to say, hey, I think this is a good idea. Other council members, would you like to see us formalize how we handle our retreat planning? Because I think that'd be a good thing for the city.
I heard you, but here is one thing. I have my opinion, because this is, you brought to us something. You feel so that we need to do it, while for me, just, I want to go step back. When you said you did not like the color and people color, these stuff, when you run meeting, they're doing it for two reasons. Icebreaker, team builder. So when the people do this, so each one for icebreaker, that's why. So I will not go like, you did not like it, maybe the other people like it. You come to say the retreat, I think just to talk about it, plan it, we need to talk to the director and the mayor before we said, we want it and this time and hour we wanna put it here. Because for me, I don't feel it should be in our, especially if we 90% run by the mayor and the staff. We should not add it. You should not add a rule something you do not have control of it. That's personally my opinion. Go ahead, Clinton.
So is there a problem with adding this and making it something formal that's outlined? Is there a problem with that? Or what would that, I'm just asking a question, I'm just throwing out, is there a problem with that, and would that create any issue with the council?
Mayor, do you have any comment?
Well, so council does not get to direct staff. So that is the one area where there could be concern. And the comment about the first council retreat that Councilmember Baldwin attended, it was in conjunction with the then deputy mayor, who my understanding now is did not relay any information to council at any time during the planning process, even though that information was provided and they had significant input on it. So it's all going to be based on the strength and the abilities of the deputy mayor in place. You already have in here special meetings. And it's not always going to be a council retreat. This past one was a leadership retreat, intentionally, because it needed to involve all of the directors and providing an overview of the areas that they oversee and any significant challenges or opportunities that are available.
And the mayor is right, because that retreat I didn't hear anything about what was going to be in the program or anything. I got it the same time as she got it, and we went to the to the retreat, but we did not receive any information on what was going to take place at that
And what's,
retreat.
and this year, I think you got it ahead. I think week ahead, and you guys had the meeting. I missed it, but I get my package. I had to read it, and we got the 2 days retreat together. So
But that was a leadership retreat.
That was a
leadership
completely
retreat.
different.
The other
Okay.
one was a pre-planning.
You had the pre-planning was in March.
One
Yeah.
thing to keep in mind, sorry, is if the deputy mayor is organizing a retreat,
Mhm.
it would violate the OPMA if the deputy mayor then communicated an agenda with everybody. That would have to come through the mayor, so.
Yes.
So, in the 3 years I've been on council, my recommendations come from what I've experienced. The first year there was no retreat. The second year there was a retreat that had late notification on the agenda, and the contents of the session I thought could have been the time of everyone involved could have been much better used. And our last year, significant improvements, more lead time, but again, could we maximize the time that we're taking? Because all of us who serve on council, many of us do have additional jobs and duties and things. I think the function of a council retreat is something that we as a body are a legislative body. If we are interested in strategy, if we're interested in programming, if we're interested in figuring out what agencies we want to serve on and be represented on, we had overlap with some of the things that came out of the leadership retreat. I think we could very easily articulate an agenda appropriate for a council retreat to be supported. The same way that, yes, there's a question of, no, we can't tell staff necessarily what to do, but we have a requirement to dictate our regular meetings. We have the ability to call special meetings. We have the ability to form committees and do all the things that are necessary to be legislators on behalf of the city. I have, as shown, samples of other communities that are also code cities, that are also council mayor, where they have not necessarily robust descriptions of retreats, but they formalize it. They give some structure to it. And what I'm proposing and asking, to the benefit of myself, other council members, and future council members, is to say, I think it would be great for us as a city to say, here's what we can expect, here's what it's gonna do, and here's what we wanna get out of it. I think that using our Monday meetings, we're on hour 3, right, plus. I think that can be a limiter to being able to develop and do some of the work as legislators we might be interested in doing. And so when I talk about being a strong council, I'm introducing this as an addition we could add to our council meetings. And yeah, I think there's more to be fleshed out and discovered there. I didn't try to provide a complete solution because I want input from my fellow council members about what would you want that retreat to do? Is that appropriate? What does legal say? What can we include in that? What can we not include in that? But I tell you what, if I'm planning out my 2025 and I can look ahead and say, oh, the third week of, the third month, I'm gonna need 2 days off of work and this is what we're gonna be doing. Not only can I prepare for it, not only can I orient my special focus areas towards it, not only can we use our regular sessions to get ready for it, but I can also plan with my family and my job and the other things that we all juggle. So the recommendation comes from that. It's not anything except trying to say, let's get our act together and let's do some work for the city. So, and I know it's late.
hear you, and the only one thing is, I think you only look to one part of the elephant. You want to put your experience as our experience. You want to force us to take yours, while in my thinking, we're not. For now, I don't think that's something. I feel comfortable, I want to do it, while I have not talked about it, I have not see the next year, so it's kinda, I know what you're thinking, but at the same time I see it like, this is what he done, that's what you need to do it. So, I know we have a job, I know we have a commitment. I'm the one who have a job, I have commitment, I volunteer. My calendar, it's already for 2 years from today. At the same time, I feel this is need to be, it came to us at the last minute. We did not even talk about it. Maybe this is something we need to include it next year in our special retreat or something to plan for next year before like we need to do it. That's my
sorry.
thinking.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry. I think that's wrong. Number one, she's put a lot of thought on this for over a year and some. And for us to say that she's forcing us for us to take it, it's wrong. Because she's a councilwoman, she has her opinions, and we should take that under consideration as well as we're accepting
Thank
yours.
you, Yolanda,
okay?
and you should not say it's wrong. I said, this is my feeling. I'm trying to explain, this is my feeling. I feel like I'm being pushed on something. It's not being communicated correctly. It's not being, when I'm saying communicate correctly, when it affect director, affect the staffing and the mayor, then it's need to go in the right channel, then see, even for the legal, before like we wanna do. That's what my feeling. We try to say we're not ready for it. And I know she looked at other meeting, other city, she did good job. At the same time, I feel this is something we need maybe included in our next extra Monday we have to say, hey, that's my experience with presentation to us. That's my thinking. I know maybe your experience wasn't, as a new council, wasn't good like ours experience. So we have different risks. We see things different. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, the ad hoc committee, this is a recommendation from the ad hoc committee.
Correct.
But I agree with Kate in the fact that this is a recommendation, doesn't mean we have to go for it. And it means that other people they can say what they would like to see in it. Because what's the point of us meeting?
I'm sorry, Cheryl, that's what I said, that I said what I feel about it.
No,
Her
I
recommendation,
understand
I
that,
don't know where you take it wrong. That I said that's what I feel. I'm trying to explain, like this is what I feel. Like I get her recommendation, I know she has good idea.
Right.
But same time I'm saying where it did not being communicated even for us. I don't feel comfortable to say something. I'm not even 100% sure this is 100% us. There's something we need.
So when we had our council meeting on Monday, we talked about this would give us an opportunity to discuss it more with the differences. And I'm kind of seeing, I don't know, maybe it's just me, I'm kind of seeing we're not getting that opportunity. Like when people want to discuss things, then it's just like, I hear you, but we're moving on.
I
want to hear what everybody else has to say.
Cheryl, we've been talking about same point over and over. Technically, we've been talking about it for from 2 Monday. I'm trying to understand, we've been stuck in spot. We're not moving anywhere. We're stuck in section 1. I see what Kate want. I'm hearing her what she want. At the same time, the mayor tried to explain this is understaffed. Do you think I'm being on spot, we're not moving anywhere, we're being stuck, and nothing will be moved. We're not getting to the next point. And so what's the thing, what do you think it should be done?
Well, I agree that having a retreat is important. I also agree that we can't tell staff they can do that, but is there some wording that we can put in there that we would like to, maybe Clinton help me out here with words. Maybe we'd like to plan a retreat once a year.
Wasn't that already assumed? Isn't that what the?
No.
No,
No.
because it's not in the rules and
Yes.
procedures.
That's what she'd like to see.
I guess I'm just trying to find the words that, something that we can put in there that says something about a retreat.
Kate wanted with exactly the date. You cannot put the, when I'm read here, was some of the comments I feel, we need to know to plan ahead. We needed to understand like the date, terminate which Monday, like you need everything to be planned ahead 100%, which we are human, we can't. Go ahead, Kate.
Hold on. These recommendations cover topics and ideas for inclusion. This is not me saying it has to be this exact date. It's an example. It's a framework. It's an idea that I intended for the ad hoc committee to work from. When we last met, I had provided this ahead of your last meeting. I had provided it a week ahead of study session. I wanted it to be available for council to say, hey, do we like the sound of that? Yes or no? Can we include it? Yes or no? How do other cities do it? In the last Monday study session, as chair, you told me that this was not our purview because it was administrative. And I challenged that. And I challenged that with the research that I did, going through countless rules and procedures documents for other cities. Hold on. I did it first and put my notes together. I had met earlier this week with the mayor and said, hey, I did follow up because you guys said it was administrative. I don't believe it's administrative. I believe this is within the powers of council to set some of these recommendations. And on behalf of that belief, I found evidence of other cities that do. Okay? So what I've included and shared out today is the fact that other cities do include these things in their rules and procedures. That's all it is at this point. It's first a suggestion that I would like council members to say we like it or we don't like it. And if we say we like it and it needs work, then we send it back to your committee to continue to formalize. What I have provided now are the cities, the section, and the pages that have examples of how they've worded it in other cities. Now, if you or legal or whomever want to go do that next bit of work to say, here's what it could look like for Auburn, that's the next step. If you want me to do it, I'll go do it.
Kate, when you submitted,
I'm a little frustrated.
I'm more than frustrated from you. When we had the ad hoc, we made it clear, and when we report that we have our time and we will have a 3 meeting, you sent it like 2 in our final days. We tried to tell you, came final days. The only thing, only I see, we're not moving forward with the rules, and people think it's me I'm holding. As a business, we thought we should meet to finish what we need, what we have. I see ourselves stuck. We're not moving anywhere. I don't say I'm giving up, but I think you're not. I don't see ourselves moving anywhere. You give out your recommendation, I give my opinion. I wanna hear from the other people, but I feel we're stuck. Now we're stuck, we're not moving, and you're the reason you hold our back. We're not moving anymore because I'm trying to explain.
I'm sorry.
Yolanda, I'm sorry, it's done. I get to the point, I don't see ourselves. We said, we get that, we appreciate that. Go ahead.
Okay, let me say something.
Go ahead.
Let's all cool our heads here a little bit,
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
Maybe we should just take this back to study session. Let everybody cool off. If you have recommendations from this, you can send it to the ad hoc committee and say, these are,
No,
no, we can't
No.
do that anymore.
It's
It's
already
already
been
done.
done.
Okay,
It's done,
but it isn't done totally.
No,
is
it's
what I'm
not done.
saying.
It's,
So,
I
I
understand.
think that we could be here all night tonight.
We
and
will
it's-
be here till next year. That's what I'm seeing. We'll be here till next year. Because we try at least acknowledge our work, move on to the next step, then speak at the end. But you hold us like either this, you're not even give us to what point what we did good. Go ahead, Mayor.
May I just make a recommendation here with a little bit of background first? It is a logistical nightmare to try and schedule 7 council members, 11 directors, clerks, and everyone else for a retreat or any type of special meeting. So our team does yeoman's work to find dates that you're all available. And sometimes we go 4 and 5 months out, because that's when everyone is available. So to the point earlier of maybe scheduling a specific day or even first week of a month, may be a little bit too prescriptive. But perhaps some language that even we will strive to have a council retreat annually within the first quarter or in the second quarter of the year, may be enough language that can move us past this point.
Thank you.
And I think that's what
I
it is.
think that's what Kate's been trying to do.
Yeah.
That's what she said.
But here is the thing, we've been doing it all the time. It's not, you be a retreat, you said you got 3 retreat, that means this happened yearly.
No.
You've been 3 years. One that has COVID, they did not get retreat, then you get the second.
There've been 2, there was one pre-retreat planning, the pre.
No, I
leadership
mean for
retreat.
every year, there'll
Right,
be.
but there was not one during COVID.
Yes,
Yeah.
so there is yearly retreat, that means it's there. That's what I'm saying, I'm not saying 3 times a year. I missed the retreat in March, the pre-planning.
So, to be clear, currently today, there's nothing in rules and procedures that speaks to us having a retreat. It is something that had happened in practice when there wasn't COVID and has continued in practice. My recommendation is that we formalize it with some basic language to formalize it. What that language is, we can refine that over time. What I've provided in the latest updates, where I went through the original document and provided links to other cities, is just, here's a reference, here's sample language, because I'm not trying to make it something we have to do from scratch. If we can see what another city is doing and work from that, okay, great. But the concept is, let's at least formalize it so we know that we're gonna have it. On the point of moving forward, I think we're all probably maxed out for the day. And
Let's move quicker. Because there is no second meeting, the mayor's.
I think the thing is, we can have as many meetings as we need. The last time we did rules and procedures,
Or we had-
Cheryl, you were in charge, and you
Yeah,
guys
we had several
had
went on for a long time.
several sessions to get through it. So it's not something that we have to wrap up with immediacy. If people want to go back, think on it, and bring back recommendations, I would love recommendations. I really would. And I don't think that everything that's been put forward is terrible. I like the idea of the round robin, but I don't like the idea of question limits. I like some of the stuff, but there's some things I think we could improve. So I think we are making progress. I appreciate the work that the ad hoc committee has done. I would like to be able to include this, and I'm sorry I didn't have it to everybody at the very beginning, but to be fair, in context of what I was going through, I had busted my foot, I was traveling for work, and then I got it to you before the last meeting, assuming that we would have these types of interactions because that's how it had been done before. So study session is working sessions, and I think for all this stress or tension, I love hearing from Cheryl, I love hearing from Clinton, I love hearing from Tracy and you and from Yolanda and from the mayor and from legal. This is how we solution. And so I don't think it's a waste, and I appreciate everyone's time, and
thank you.
I'm game to keep going in a different
Cheryl,
meeting.
do you have any comment?
No, just that, yes, sometimes it takes several meetings. And we just all need to keep our cool if it does take that, because when we did the ad hoc committee before, yes, you come up with stuff that you would like, but then council also comes up with stuff and then it goes back and forth for a while. That's just part of the process. So you can't take it personally is what I'm
No,
saying.
I'm not taking it personally.
Just don't take it personally.
I wanna hear if any, because it's our time consumed. So when we meet and you give your recommendation, we go meet again. So that's my time.
Right.
So that's why I wanna hear what else we need to be aware. I heard Kate, what other comment? So because it's my time and I changed my schedule with that. So I wanna know before we sit today, okay, we get the point to add this, what else?
Oh, what
What
are the
other
things we
comment?
don't like?
Yes,
Oh,
we
well,
need to hear people comment, then we will.
Okay, I already said the one about talking to staff before and after meetings.
And which point, this one, which
I
bit?
don't know what point it is. Let me find it.
Did we settle this with Kate?
No, it's not gonna be settled this week.
Okay.
They will add, the retreat will be added 2.6. That mean it's being settled with Kate. But we wanna move with what we have now, because what Kate bring, it's new. She put us back, so let's move for what we have now here to fix it.
But
no, we add point from Kate, 2.6. I mean, it's a new recommendation.
Were you okay with
17.5,
17.5? Okay.
Yeah, if I,
So I've been taking notes and I thought in all of the sections of section 2 that it would probably best fit between 2.5 and 2.6. So I added a 2.6 entitled annual retreat that says, something along what the mayor said, that the council will strive to have an annual retreat in the first or second quarter of each year, and then move 2.6 to 2.7 and 2.7 to 2.8.
So we already added.
You know,
So,
Go ahead.
so
Hold on.
I just want to say this real quick. So we just spent like a large chunk of the meeting going around and around and around about that, and that's all that she asked.
Okay.
No, I'm saying, hold on a second. I'm saying that was her initial question. And we just spent 45 minutes going back and forth about something that we end up doing anyway. We ended up adding it. And so we just spent a lot of time, on sometimes we just gotta, that's a part of this is having a discussion about stuff. And yeah, there's gonna be times things are gonna come out of a committee, and that's what we're supposed to do in these sessions is talk through that. And then we spend a lot of time, and I'm not saying that people's voices shouldn't be heard, but I felt like it was a lot of going back and forth about something that was simply all that she asked was, can we add that in there? Is there a place for that? And there were several of us that said, yeah, I don't see a problem with it. And then it just kept going on and on. So I would appreciate in the future if we would just, not turn it into a back and forth with each other and then making it be about, whatever, and just kind of focus on the question that was asked, and let's address the question or the comments that was addressed, because we could have got to this 40 minutes ago. Because and the mayor made a great point. And so now it's there, and we just spent 40 minutes and we're only on 2 point whatever. And there's a whole other document here. So that's just my comments moving forward. I didn't feel anybody was attacking anybody's work or not appreciative of all the work that's gone in to what was being done. But when that work's done and it comes out on the floor, it wasn't a finished product. It was coming out to be brought out for the council to discuss it. And so I thought that's what study sessions were for.
I do have one thing that she did mention, because I know that a lot of us have asked town hall meetings. Is that?
Can you hold on in your thinking, because this is of a new subject.
Okay.
Let Cheryl, she start, then we go back to this. There's something in you, Clinton, I'll get back to you, because I don't, go ahead, Cheryl.
It was just 17.5, and I brought it up last time. I don't feel that should be in the council rules and procedures. It's before a meeting, after a meeting. If staff, which I haven't heard personally, staff has had a problem, but if they would go to the mayor, and that's an administration thing. It's not during our time. It's before and after, so that's just my.
So are you asking to strike that out?
I'm open it to the people.
Oh,
Well, I did hear Jeff Tate that he didn't seem to have any problems with that the meeting's over, and if he had time, he was willing to take those comments.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I did not see you, sorry.
I'm sorry, but just real, I thought we landed on, he said something about adding wording.
Yeah.
to that. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
That we
yes.
would limit the conversation in the,
Correct.
if I'm correct, I think that's what he said.
Go ahead, Mayor.
It was a staff requested revision. Staff does not want to be obligated either before a meeting when they're trying to be prepared for the meeting or afterwards when they are on their own time to have to stick around with council. So it was a staff requested revision.
Was it one staff member?
It was a staff requested revision.
Okay, any other comment?
No, I just remember him saying we would add something about
It was,
in the chamber when we were here,
yes,
something
on
along
council
those lines.
floor.
Just, I think he
Yes.
added like 2 words to it that, you know, was, I can't remember what it was. I don't have my notes in front of me, but
We can actually pull up the video from the last study session and pull that too.
Any other comment? Anyone has any other comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, on that one, I tend to agree with Councilmember Rakes that it seems to infringe on just normal conversation if it's pre or post meeting. So if there is something that was recommended to modify that, I would love to see that in the next iteration.
Wait, I'm confused on what you said. So you said you agree with her saying it's okay to have those personal conversations about personal business on the council floor? You're agreeing to that on 17.5?
Before and after a meeting.
Before and after meeting, I think we were gonna, it may have been striking the in-council chambers, because there's hallways, there's sidewalks, there's other areas not in council chambers. On 17.5. Was that the modification? Does
something
anyone
like that.
recollect?
I don't think we mentioned anything about just striking it all together, taking it out altogether. That wasn't, yeah.
Could you come up with some wordings on that, attorney?
I could, but once again, this is the council's, I really do try to not insert myself into this process. It really is the council's set of rules. The other times that I've done it, it's when I've kind of heard consensus, but it hasn't been articulated that well, no offense. And so for this one, I don't see that there's consensus, and so I'm reluctant to offer wording when I don't feel that there's consensus yet.
Mayor, I'm gonna ask you, because it was brought to you by certain directors. So what Kate said, it kind of limits us to even not be able to talk to them as we go out to.
No, I was
Could
saying.
we put that?
Sorry, for 17.5, it would either be to strike the addition, which is what it is, or modify the language so that any communications are not happening in council chambers. So if there's discussions to be had, not, that is personal business, not to be doing that on city grounds, basically.
Did I hear you saying to be no communication in the city ground at all? That
honestly, my brain is a little tired,
oh
so
my,
I don't think I'm
me too
framing this well
so
for how
that's
I
why
intended.
when
So if anything, I'm of a mindset at this point where yes, we could keep going until midnight if we needed to,
No.
but this is also something where we can continue this in another study session, which is where my head's at the moment.
I think the in-council chambers was the addition to
Yeah.
this section.
Oh,
That's-
maybe it was inverse.
Yeah.
so you can talk outside in the
So
balcony.
that was, yeah, that's.
Yeah, you can talk
yeah, 'cause
outside.
I brought that up in the last meeting, and then he just said, well, we can just add in there, thank you, Mayor, about the change. Where prior to that, so
Oh.
he didn't.
Okay, but it's 9/11, it's long day. Unless someone has another more comment.
I mean, there are elements in the recommendations that I'd shared that I would love for consideration in the next round of revisions. The town hall, the retreat, the ready items, onboarding checklist, those types of things that I still stand by, that I think they would improve our practices and our operations as a legislative body. But I think everyone's a little bit tapped out, so I'm happy to continue the conversation in another study session.
Yes,
Yeah, and
please.
and I know there was some mention in 16.2, we didn't get to it tonight, but there was some discussion in 16.2 about the mayor and the deputy mayor and then the council each having to be able to select a committee member. And I felt that there, from the previous discussion, that there was some more discussion that needed to be had around that as well. So there's a few more points in here we didn't get to tonight.
That's why
So
we.
it's all good. It's all right. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. It's all good. It's all good.
The plan was today that we talk about what we didn't talk, then we go to this. But suddenly we start talking about it before we finish what we have. So
Okay.
that was the plan, to finish what we have, then we add any other new item. Anyway. I turn it back to you.
Okay. So before we leave tonight, could we pick a date for the next ad hoc committee so that I can check my calendar? Because the last time I had appointments and I had to change some things. So if we could do that, look at our calendars so we can make sure that I'm available as well, because I like to be.
I don't think it's another, is it another ad hoc, or were we just gonna bring this back for another study session?
The
to finish
study
out?
session, you have
We're
to
gonna
end in the
bring it
study
to-
session, this
okay.
is different.
Never mind.
Yeah, that's what I got. Am I wrong?
I apologize. Thank you
Yeah.
for putting me back on track. Since there's no further agenda or any further discussion, meeting's adjourned at 9:13.